Chapter 826. So you're here for the Soul Blast technique. Unfortunately, I won't teach you the Soul Blast technique. Besides, you don't have the strength to search my soul. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light, but his expression remained calm. This calmness made the blue-eyed old man scoff. In his opinion, Ning Fan was just pretending to be calm. That day when Chen Xian sent Du Jin to kill you, he didn't manage to kill you. Unfortunately, you still fell into this old man's hands today. This old man is different from Chen Xian. The reason why I want to kill you is to destroy the divine technique. But since you refuse to accept a toast, don't blame me for being ruthless. The blue-eyed old man sneered and suddenly lifted his foot to stomp on the ground. The pressure of renouncing the void suddenly spread out, and the world seemed to freeze. Above the Ean sky, the densely packed fissures extended crazily from under his feet. Immediately, 900 fissures appeared in the sky. The heavenly might of demonic fire poured out of the crack, as if a heavenly tribulation had descended. In the next instant, 900 giant meteors burning with green flames shot out from the crack between heaven and earth, bringing with them an awe-inspiring heavenly might. Each meteorite was as large as a small cultivation planet. Fall! The blue-eyed old man shouted. Immediately, the meteorites in the sky fell like stars, crashing towards the wasteland where Ning Fan was. This was the blue-eyed old man's ultimate technique, the falling star technique. The fall of 10 stars could kill a life immortal. When the 100 stars fall, the initial stage of Du Jin initial stage will die. The power of 900 stars falling down. Even a late-stage true crossing cultivator would not be able to resist. The blue-eyed old man did not use his full strength in this attack. With his status as a Run Huang, there was no need for him to use his full strength to deal with a Gui Xian. Even so, when the stars fell, it was as if doomsday had arrived. The world was immediately covered in green light, glaring and difficult to distinguish. The ground of the wasteland was smashed by the stars, and it shattered into pieces. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Below the ground, countless streams of jade-colored lava shot up into the sky. The place where Ning Fan was standing had already fallen into a sea of fire. Inside the sea of fire, Ning Fan's life and death was uncertain. My attack seems to be a little heavy. Although this kid has the Soul Blast technique to protect himself, the number of primordial spirits he has is extremely limited. It's absolutely impossible for him to completely block my attack with the Soul Blast technique. If my attack is a little heavy, this kid will die on the spot. Although this old man has completed the task given by the 8th Elder, I won't be able to search his soul to force him to hand over the secret of the Soul Blast technique. The blue-eyed old man shook his head and looked indifferently at the sea of fire below. Suddenly, the blue-eyed old man's gaze changed. The sea of fire below suddenly split into two, as if it was making way. Within the sea of flames, a white-robed young man walked out step by step. He was none other than Ning Fan. He opened his mouth and inhaled. Immediately, the sea of flames was sucked into his stomach, and he refined and devoured them one by one. As expected of old monster Shikong. If you were to use your full strength, I wouldn't be able to take it. But unfortunately, this strike only has the might of the late stage of true crossing realm. Moreover, it is a fire attribute magical ability, so it cannot injure me. Ning Fan swallowed a mouthful of the green flame sea. As soon as he refined it, the magic power in his body was directly replenished by around 50%. With another gulp, the sea of flames on the ground was immediately devoured by Ning Fan, and his magic power was restored to its peak. In the past, he couldn't do this, but after he cultivated the Great Five Elements physique, he was able to do it. There was no need to be afraid of exhausting his magic power. By devouring the 5 elements, he could quickly restore his magic power. The blue-eyed old man's expressionless face immediately showed a shocked color. There were many physiques that could ignore the damage of fire, but there was only one type of physique that could restore magic power by devouring the 5 elements. Only this type of physique had such a heaven-defying ability. Cultivators who possessed this type of physique were not only unafraid of the 5 elements' magical ability, but could also devour the 5 elements' magical ability as a great supplement. To any cultivators who cultivated the 5 elements, this type of physique was like a nightmare. He had never thought that a mere ghost profound realm cultivator like Ning Fan would have such a rare physique. Great Five Elements physique. It's definitely the Great Five Elements physique. The information of the Chun clan didn't mention that this kid has such a physique. Fortunately, this kid is just a ghost profound realm cultivator. Otherwise, as long as he breaks through to the late true crossing realm, none of my great Tao of green flames would be able to hurt him with his Great Five Elements physique. I can only find another way to deal with him. The blue-eyed old man retracted his shocked expression, and his killing intent rose again. No matter how special Ning Fan's physique was, his cultivation base was still low after all. It was not worth mentioning at all. With a sway of his body, he immediately vanished from the sky. In an instant he reappeared on the wasteland, only 10 zhang away from Ning Fan. He raised his skinny palm and grabbed at Ning Fan in an extremely casual manner without saying a word. This grab seemed to have no other ability and was very simple, but it contained an indescribable power that made Ning Fan's hair stand on end. This was his first time facing old monster Shikong's ability at such a close distance. After attaining the unity of heaven and man, his senses had become sharper. At this moment, he had an intuition that if he was hit by the blue-eyed old man's grab, all of his cultivation base would vanish into thin air. Shikong. The word Kong was the reason why old monster Shikong was so powerful. I can't block it. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan's feet immediately flashed with black flames. His figure disappeared in an instant, dodging the blue-eyed old man's grab. He dodged it. His movement technique is very fast, but that's all there is to it. The blue-eyed old man raised his head and looked at the sky. At this moment, his position was switched with Ning Fan. He was standing on the ground while Ning Fan had escaped to the sky. With a cold snort, the blue-eyed old man raised his index finger and pointed it upwards. Immediately, millions of rays of green light shot up from the ground and turned into a 1 million zhang tall volcano. There were millions of golden runes on the volcano. As soon as they appeared, they immediately broke into countless lava rocks. Then they condensed into a gigantic lava hand that covered the sky and grabbed at the sky. The vast sky crumbled. A gust of violent wind that came from below nearly blew Ning Fan away from the sky. The space in all directions was sealed. Below him was the gigantic hand that covered the sky. There was no way he could dodge this attack. The blue-eyed old man finally used his full strength for this attack. This volcano was the acquired immortal treasure that the blue-eyed old man cultivated with his life. No one who wasn't a Shikong cultivator could withstand this volcano. Shikong is indeed far from what I can defeat. It's already difficult for me to survive a few rounds in the hands of old monster Shikong. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with regret. If the blue-eyed old man didn't use his full strength, he wouldn't mind using his own strength to mediate and gain some experience in fighting against Shikong. But now he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to do so. Close. The blue-eyed old man shouted. The gigantic lava hand immediately clenched. Whether it was the sky or Ning Fan, everything was grasped in the palm of the giant hand, as if it had already crushed them all. Heaven and earth began to tremble violently. The vast sky kept collapsing. The blue-eyed old man grinned hideously. From his point of view, Ning Fan had most likely been beaten beyond recognition by his attack. After I capture this young man's primordial spirit, I have plenty of ways to pry open his mouth and extract the complete incantation of the spirit blast technique from him. Just as this thought rose in his mind, the blue-eyed old man suddenly revealed a look of astonishment and looked at the vast sky in disbelief. The gigantic lava hand that was transformed from his Tao soldier suddenly began to tremble violently. Countless cracks spread crazily on the surface of the giant hand. In the next moment, a huge force that carried a monstrous devil might suddenly collided with the giant lava hand, directly smashing it into countless pieces of lava and rubble that fell to the vast sky. At the moment when the giant hand completely collapsed, the blue-eyed old man who cultivated with his life immediately felt a pain in his primordial spirit. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and he looked at the vast sky furiously. Above the vast sky, the smoke and dust dispersed and Ning Fan's figure appeared. At this moment, there was a burly man in a cloak standing beside Ning Fan. The Six Desires puppet string was entwined between Ning Fan's fingers. That volcano magical treasure was destroyed by the ancient devil puppet that he controlled with a single punch. Shikong old monster. No, this isn't right. This is a puppet. The blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with shock again. He couldn't imagine how a mere ghost profound realm cultivator, like Ning Fan, could possess a Shikong puppet. Moreover, even though the chi of this puppet was also at the early Shikong realm like him, it was much stronger than him. Kill. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a cold light. The puppet string between his fingers moved, and the ancient devil puppet immediately took a step forward. This step contained boundless tremendous force, forming tens of cracks of devil light, which immediately spread wildly in the sky. At this moment, the spatial seal that the blue-eyed old man planted was broken by the ancient devil puppet. As his divine technique was broken, the blue-eyed old man suffered a slight backlash and felt a sharp pain in his chest. Before he could react, the ancient devil puppet's body had already disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the blue-eyed old man felt a chill run down his spine. Without any hesitation, the blue-eyed old man took out a treasure and threw it towards his back the moment he turned around. It was a golden brick. Its surface was densely covered with runes of the Great Tao. Although it didn't seem big, it was actually a supreme treasure that was refined from an entire high-grade cultivation planet. It was unusually heavy. Even an ordinary Shikong realm cultivator would bleed after being hit by this golden brick. At the place where the golden brick landed, the figure of the ancient devil puppet appeared amidst the flickering devil light. At this moment, countless tadpole-like runes were swimming on the body of the ancient devil puppet. Those runes were the power of the ancestral talisman that Ning Fan had imbued into the ancient devil. In the past, Ning Fan couldn't imbue the power of the ancestral talisman on others. Now that his ancient devil cultivation base had increased, he could do it. With the help of the ancestral talisman, the aura of the ancient devil puppet skyrocketed. Among the early Shikong realm cultivators, only a few had such a terrifying aura. When he raised his fist, it was as if the entire world was held in his hand. When the punch was thrown, it was as if the entire world was being punched by the ancient devil puppet. When the punch landed on the golden brick magic treasure, it directly turned into countless golden powder, which was dispersed by the wind. After the first punch, the ancient devil puppet threw a second punch at the blue-eyed old man's chest. It carried an unimaginable destructive force. The runes of the ancestral talisman spread in all directions. The space within 100 jong was immediately sealed, not allowing the blue-eyed old man to escape. The blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with shock. He gritted his teeth and took out a giant cauldron, smashing it towards the ancient devil puppet. At the same time, he summoned his spirit armor without hesitation. The armor flickered with spiritual light, which was enough to defend against all attacks under the Shikong realm. The hollow eyes of the ancient devil suddenly shone with cold light. That cold light was Ning Fan's emotion. When the punch landed, the giant cauldron magic treasure was directly shattered into countless pieces. The aftershock of the punch landed on the blue-eyed old man's chest. Immediately, countless cracks appeared on his spirit armor. The destructive force penetrated through the cracks and rushed into the blue-eyed old man's body, causing him to suffer many injuries. His face turned pale. He took several steps back and coughed out blood. His expression when he looked at the ancient devil puppet was filled with horror. Without giving him time to think, the third punch of the ancient devil arrived. This punch contained the momentum of the previous two punches. It was as fast as lightning, not allowing the blue-eyed old man to take out another magic treasure to protect himself. In a moment of desperation, a ray of green light shot out from the top of the blue-eyed old man's head and heavily collided with the ancient devil's punch. It was a ray of green lightning. Its power was obviously beyond the blue-eyed old man's cultivation base. Under this collision, the ancient devil puppet's punch was blocked. The shockwave from the collision caused it to take half a step back. As for the blue-eyed old man, he coughed out blood again. His face was as pale as a piece of paper. His injuries had worsened more than twice in an instant. The life-saving green lightning given to me by the eighth elder is only enough to slightly repel this puppet. How can this puppet be so powerful? I'm afraid that I won't be able to destroy this puppet even if I use up all the remaining green lightning. However, This puppet doesn't seem to have any spiritual intelligence. It must be controlled by the puppet strings. In other words, as long as I kill this kid, this puppet will become a masterless object. It won't be able to attack me anymore. The blue-eyed old man's eyes turned ruthless. He raised his hand and took out a few magic treasures to attack the ancient devil puppet. He didn't aim to hurt the puppet, but to slightly slow it down. The second ray of green lightning flew out from his glabella. It immediately turned into a green lightning dragon. It violently shattered the devil talisman seal within 100 zhong radius, and soared towards Ning Fan. What a powerful green lightning! Even with Ning Fan's great 5 elements physique and the ability of the Taisu lightning star, he still felt a sense of danger from this green lightning. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan immediately summoned the Taisu lightning diagram and spread it in front of the green lightning. At the moment when the green lightning crashed into the lightning diagram, Ning Fan changed his hand seal. The lightning diagram retracted and swallowed the green lightning. Immediately, the connection between the blue-eyed old man and the green lightning was forcefully cut off. Ning Fan's face turned pale, and he suddenly coughed out blood. The lightning star on his glabella gave him a sharp pain, as if it was about to explode. It was still a little forceful for him to forcefully keep this green lightning. On the other side, the ancient devil puppet had destroyed a few of the blue-eyed old man's magic treasures. Its eyes flashed with ferocious light. It took a step towards the blue-eyed old man and grabbed his arms with both of its hands, tearing them apart. Before he could figure out why Ning Fan wasn't killed by the green lightning, a sharp pain spread throughout the blue-eyed old man's body. Whether it was the spiritual armor on his body or the body that he had painstakingly cultivated for millions of years, all of them were torn into countless pieces by the ancient devil puppet. Blood splattered on the ground. A miserable shriek was heard. The blue-eyed old man's primordial spirit rolled up the storage pouch and escaped from the corpse in a panic. It didn't even have the time to take away the third green lightning in the corpse. It turned into a ray of light and fled for its life. The ancient devil puppet's figure flashed and disappeared. Then, it blocked the blue-eyed old man's path. It grabbed the old man's primordial spirit with its huge hand. The essence in its palm vibrated. The blue-eyed old man's primordial spirit immediately suffered a heavy blow. Its chi became frantically weak. Not to mention escaping, it couldn't even self-destruct its primordial spirit. Ning Fan's figure flashed and landed next to the ancient devil puppet. He took the blue-eyed old man's storage pouch and a green lightning from his corpse. This green lightning originally belonged to the blue-eyed old man. It was his life-saving measure. Now it was taken away by Ning Fan. The moment Ning Fan took the primordial spirit from the ancient devil puppet, the blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with fear. He had never thought that Ning Fan, who was just a ghost profound realm cultivator, could escape from his pursuit and use a shedding void puppet to reverse the situation and capture him. If he had known this earlier, he certainly wouldn't have come to kill Ning Fan alone. At least, he would have called a few more people to ensure that nothing would go wrong. You mentioned Chen Xian in your words just now. Could it be that you're talking about the patriarch of the Eastern Ocean Chen family, Chen Xian? That day, I was ambushed in the Ling Tai Star. Was it him who sent the assassins? Ning Fan asked in a cold tone. Yes. So what if it was? I'm not afraid to tell you that Chen Xian and I are the 8th Elder's men. If you dare to do anything to me, the 8th Elder will never let you go. Ah. The blue-eyed old man pretended to be imposing, trying to scare Ning Fan and beg for a way out. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, Ning Fan had already used the soul-searching and memory-destroying technique on him. No one would believe that a dignified shedding void puppet would end up having his soul and memory destroyed by a ghost profound realm cultivator. However, this matter was really happening right now. At first, the blue-eyed old man screamed in agony. However, as time passed, his eyes gradually became dull and his expression became blank. His screams also gradually stopped. 2 hours later, Ning Fan finally finished searching the man's soul. His face was unusually cold. From the man's memory, Ning Fan learned that his name was Qin Yangzi. He was the 47th elder of the Godly Void Pavilion. Qin Yangzi and the patriarch of the Chen family, Chen Xian, were the subordinates of the 8th elder of the Godly Void Pavilion. The assassins who tried to assassinate him in the Lingtai Star were the assassins of the Chen family. Whether it was the Chen family or Qin Yangzi, the main reason why they wanted to kill him was because of their hostility towards the Luo family, the War King. When the Chen family heard that Ning Fan had incredible combat strength, they sent out their assassins in an attempt to eliminate Ning Fan, not giving him the chance to cultivate the war god art. This was also the reason why Qin Yangzi made his move. Seizing the Soul Blast technique was also something he wanted to do along the way. The 8th elder of the Godly Void Pavilion, Lei Jinshi. This person is the patriarch of the Lei family in the Eastern Sea. His cultivation base is at the late thought-shattering realm, and he is not on good terms with the 9th elder. He had secretly sent people to kill a few cultivators who had the potential to become the guest elder of the Luo family. The higher the combat strength of a person, the more importance the Luo family would place on them. At the same time, they would also be more hostile towards this person. This person was unwilling to let the Luo family save the War King. The reason why the Chen family sent people to kill me was because of this person's order. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He would remember the enmity between the Lei family and the Chen family. If it wasn't because of the ancient devil puppet in my body, I would probably die in the hands of this Qin Yangzi this time. If Qin Yangzi dies in the divine tomb, that Lei Jinshi will certainly notice it. Who knows, he might even send more people to the bottom level of the divine tomb to kill me. I can't activate the Slayer Emperor's Jade Slip here. If he sends someone stronger, it will be hard for me to resist. Ning Fan's gaze swept across Qin Yangzi's primordial spirit and remained silent. After a while, he sealed this idiotic primordial spirit in a jade box and kept it temporarily. This was not the best time for Qin Yangzi to die. If he goes to the outside world and has the Slayer Emperor's Jade Slip to protect him, it would not matter even if Lei Jinshi finds out that he killed Qin Yangzi. After keeping Qin Yangzi's primordial spirit, Ning Fan scanned his storage pouch with his spirit sense and found 4 void tokens. The reason why Qin Yangzi could enter the last 3 levels of the Divine Tomb was because he possessed the void tokens. However, Ning Fan did not expect that this person would actually have 4 void tokens. In this case, I now have 5 void tokens. Other than opening the chaotic ancient tomb palace, I might also be able to open other tomb palaces. After keeping the void tokens, Ning Fan bent his palm and condensed 2 green lightning bolts on the center of his palm. These 2 green lightning bolts were the life-saving abilities that Lei Jinshi had given to Qin Yangzi. Ning Fan had already seen it in Qin Yangzi's memories. Any of the green lightning bolts was enough to kill all cultivators below the skyrending realm. In the last 3 levels of the Divine Tomb where there were devil creatures everywhere, these green lightning bolts could be used as his life-saving ability. After keeping the 2 green lightning bolts into the lightning star on his glabella, Ning Fan leaped into the profound Yin world and began to heal his injuries. A few days later, he left the profound Yin world. After choosing a direction, he continued to look for the entrance to the 8th level. Inside the heavenly prison on the Void Star in the Eastern Ocean Star region. At the moment, there were countless divine Void Realm old monsters sitting cross-legged near the bell altar. They were performing magic techniques to repair the heaven-suppressing bell. All of a sudden, the 8th elder Lei Jinshi opened his eyes. As if he had sensed something, he frowned slightly. Strange. Why did the primordial spirit connection between me and Qin Yangzi weaken a little? Could it be that something happened to him when he went to the Divine Tomb to kill a junior? No. This is definitely impossible. A mere profound ghost realm cultivator can never hurt skyrending realm no matter how strong he is. He's just an ant. If it's the skyrending realm devil creatures on the 7th level, they might be able to hurt Qin Yangzi. However, Qin Yangzi has the life-saving green lightning that I gave him. Ordinary devil creatures won't be able to hurt him. The weakening of the primordial spirit connection might just be my illusion. Lei Jinshi shook his head and closed his eyes again. Of course, he would never think that the current Qin Yangzi had already turned into an idiot, and was sealed in a jade box by Ning Fan, who was just an ant in his eyes. Chapter 827. The world of the 7th level was naturally extremely vast. However, with Ning Fan's speed, He finally arrived at the edge of the 7th level after a few days. Ning Fan had yet to find the location of the teleportation gate that leads to the 8th floor. He stood in a valley and frowned. Along the way, he killed many life-immortal realm fiends, but he did not encounter any fiends above Duzhen. At this moment, there were already 236 life-immortal realm primordial spirits in his soul pouch. If all of them were detonated, even a cultivator at the peak of the crossing truth realm would have to be fearful. He had also obtained 2 life-immortal Dao fruits. To Ning Fan, however, they were no longer valuable items. Have I gone in the wrong direction? The 7th level of the Divine Tomb is so big, but there's no map. I can only aimlessly search for the entrance to the 8th level. Ning Fan shook his head. He did not have the map of the last 3 levels. Even Qing Yangzi did not have it. According to Qing Yangzi's memories, only the cultivators above the Broken Thought realm in the Godly Void Pavilion knew the map of the last 3 levels. Naturally, in this Tomb of the God of Sin, there was a group of people who had a map of this place. They were the few demons who were above the Duzhen level. If I had known that the last 3 layers were so vast, I would have asked Lu Feng for a map of the Divine Tomb that day. To him, carving a map is just something that can be done in the blink of an eye. It's too late to talk about this now. In Qing Yangzi's memory, there is a lot of information about the last 3 levels of the Tomb of the God of Sin. For example, once a devil in this place cultivates to the Duzhen realm, there will be a very small chance of gaining spiritual wisdom. The higher the cultivation, the higher the chance of gaining spiritual wisdom. These intelligent demonic creatures have been cultivating here for countless years. Naturally, they know the map of this place. If we can capture a demonic creature with intelligence, it will save us a lot of trouble. Ning Fan pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes flickered and he looked at the only withered tree in the valley. A moment later, he was deep in thought as he stepped on the black flame and left. A long time after he left, the only withered tree in the valley suddenly emitted a flash of devil chi and transformed into an old man at the early stage of the crossing truth realm. The old man looked like both a human and a devil. Half of his skin was made of tree bark. His eyes were not empty like most of the monsters here. He was one of the few intelligent monsters in the Tomb of the God of Sin. Looking at the direction where Ning Fan had fled to, the old man's eyes flashed with ferocious light, and he said coldly, "This person should be the cultivator who entered the 7th floor recently. The delicious smell that revered Lord smelled should be from this person." TSK. This old man just got close to him and carefully sniffed. This person's flesh and blood essence is too perfect. To a High Lord, it is definitely a great tonic. High Lord, you didn't smell wrongly. The Exalted Lord is only 1 step away from the Void Realm. As long as he devours this kid, he'll definitely become the 9th Void Realm Heavenly Demon in the 7th level. I'll send a message to the Exalted Lord. The cultivator he wants to eat is right where I am. Sigh, this person's baleful aura is too heavy. This old man has just broken through to the true crossing realm not too long ago. I do not have too much confidence in taking him down. If not for that, when this person arrived just now, this old man would have made a move and taken him down. Forget it, it's better to let the High Lord take action personally. It's more reliable. The old man sneered and raised his hand. Immediately, a demonic light soared into the sky. It was a sword light that transmitted sound. Unfortunately, the sound-transmitting flying sword had just soared into the sky when it suddenly exploded without any warning. At the place where it exploded, a white-robed young man who had quietly returned to the place and was hiding himself slowly appeared. "You want to inform your High Lord and eat me? What a loyal demon to protect your High Lord." As soon as the white-robed young man raised his hand, 108,000 illusory sword shadows immediately formed into a sword formation, trapping the early true crossing realm old man within it. All of a sudden, the old man's expression changed greatly, and he cried out in fear. Why didn't you leave? Why did you come back?" Before he could finish his words, he already let out a miserable shriek as he was ruthlessly slashed by the 108,000 swords. Memories kept flashing in front of his eyes. In those memories, there were more and more people holding black gold longswords slashing at him. 10 breaths later, The physical body of the old man who had yet to stabilize his true crossing realm exploded into countless amounts of tainted blood, sprinkling all over the sword formation. After withdrawing the 108,000 sword shadows, Ning Fan bent his palm and beckoned, capturing a black primordial spirit that was trying to escape. Then he directly searched his soul. Of course, Ning Fan could not read the complete memories of the old man by searching his soul. However, he could only read bits and pieces of his memories. It was enough for him to roughly understand the map of the 7th level. After destroying the old man's primordial spirit, he refined it using a secret technique and kept it into his soul pouch. After doing all of these, Ning Fan leaped into the sky. He chose a certain direction and dashed straight towards the 8th level. Just like that, he flew for 6 days. Along the way, there were already 274 primordial spirits of life immortal realm beings in his soul pouch. 6 days later, he finally saw the teleportation platform that led to the 8th level from afar. However, outside the teleportation platform, there were at least 300 second step devil beasts. Among the 300 devils, there were 15 true crossing realm devils. Of the 15 Dujin devils, only 4 of them had intelligence. One of them was the lord of this group of devils. He was a black-robed young man with a gloomy expression. Currently, he was sitting on a throne with many devils surrounding him. One of his hands was supporting his chin while the other hand was holding a wine goblet, sipping from it. The wine goblet was not filled with wine but blood. It was the blood of the devils. The blood that isn't a cultivator really tastes bad. The young man drank a mouthful of the black blood and frowned. He snorted with displeasure and threw the wine goblet to the ground. Don't worry, Venerable Lord. We have already found out that the tasty cultivator is rushing towards this place. As soon as he arrives, Venerable Lord will definitely be able to taste the most delicious blood. One of the devils with spiritual intelligence immediately said with fear and trepidation when he saw his lord getting angry. I have been waiting here for 6 days. If he still doesn't come. The black-robed young man suddenly let out a sinister smile halfway through his words. He stood up abruptly and looked at the sky. There was a ray of light rushing towards him from that direction. Kill. Without saying anything else, the black-robed young man just raised his hand and waved slightly. Among the demonic creatures around him, nearly 100 life immortal realm demonic creatures revealed ferocious glints in their eyes as they flew into the sky and charged toward the light. Ning Fan's spirit sense swept across the densely packed devils that were rushing towards him. His eyes darkened. He stopped the ray of light and stepped on the vast sky, advancing step by step. While walking among the 100 life immortal realm devils, Ning Fan's essence chi circulated throughout his body. Every time he raised his hand, a life immortal realm devil would be torn into pieces. In just 10 breaths, all of the 100 life immortal realm devils were torn into pieces by Ning Fan. The essence of their flesh and blood were condensed into the wine, and all their primordial spirits were kept away. Trash. The black-robed young man seemed to be extremely displeased. He harumphed and waved his hand again. Kill. This time, apart from him, all the other devils rushed towards Ning Fan, including the 14 Dujin devils. Among the 14 devils, there were 7 early Dujin devils, 4 mid-Dujin devils and 3 late Dujin devils. With their current cultivation base, Ning Fan naturally couldn't deal with them alone. A primordial spirit that came to my doorstep. Ning Fan waved his hand and summoned the ancient devil puppet. The puppet immediately grew in the wind and turned into a giant devil. Ning Fan hooked the puppet string between his fingers. The puppet immediately rushed into the army of devils, tearing them into pieces and swallowing their primordial spirits. Void abandoning puppet. Not good. The black-robed young man's expression changed drastically. Without saying a word, he turned around and ran. The direction he fled in was actually the direction of the 8th floor's teleportation portal. He went straight into the 8th floor, and his movements were really fast. The other 3 devils with spiritual wisdom were also frightened. They wanted to run away, but they were already killed by the ancient devil puppet before they could do so. Those devils that did not have spiritual wisdom continued to rush towards the ancient devil puppet without any fear of death. However, they could only be killed by it. In just 10 breaths, All the devils in this place were slaughtered by the ancient devil puppet. Ning Fan kept all the flesh and blood of the devil corpses. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He leaped onto the shoulder of the ancient devil puppet. Under the control of the puppet string, the puppet turned into a ray of black light and flew into the teleportation gate of the teleportation platform. As soon as he arrived at the 8th floor, Ning Fan immediately released his rain intent. Instantly it started to drizzle. After confirming a direction, Ning Fan drove the puppet and chased after it. That direction was exactly the direction where the black-robed young man had escaped to. Sensing the escaping light behind him, the black-robed young man was almost scared to death. Just now he wanted to savor the taste of Ning Fan's blood. Now he wished that Ning Fan would run far away from him. Damn it! A mere peak ghost profound realm cultivator actually has a void-shedding puppet. Are all the cultivators outside the divine tomb so heaven-defying? But I'm not afraid. My master is a devil lord of the 8th floor. He is an early thought fragmentation realm expert. Not to mention the 8th floor, he is also a famous figure in the 9th floor. As long as he escapes to my master's abode and asks my master for help, killing him will be as easy as flipping his palm. Just as this thought rose in his mind, his face turned into horror and despair in the next moment. The ancient devil puppet was getting closer and closer to him. In the end, it took a step forward and directly crossed the path in front of him. Its massive body was like a mountain, blocking the path in front of him, making it impossible for him to move forward. You seem to be very familiar with this 8th floor. If that's the case, I can directly obtain the map of this floor after killing you. Ning Fan said indifferently. Then he hooked the puppet string between his fingers. Immediately, the ancient devil puppet lifted its leg and stomped on the black-robed young man. The young man was shocked. He opened his mouth and spat out a black devil sword, slashing at the direction where the ancient devil puppet was stomping. Unfortunately, before his devil sword could display its power, it was directly crushed by the ancient devil puppet's foot. That foot continued to stomp on the ground. A huge force spread out, instantly destroying the mountains and rivers within a million li. Countless devil creatures were startled by that stomp. As for the young man's physical body, it was directly stomped into meat paste. Only his withered primordial spirit was captured by Ning Fan. Impossible. I'm only half a step away from the void-shedding realm. This puppet. Before he could finish his words, he let out a blood-curdling scream and directly fainted. It was because Ning Fan did not waste time talking nonsense with him, and directly searched his soul and memory. After searching his soul, Ning Fan naturally knew the map of the 8th floor like the back of his hand. He also gained some understanding of the distribution of devil creatures in the last 3 floors. For the devil creatures in the last 3 floors, as long as their cultivation base reaches the crossing truth realm, they will have a small chance to gain spiritual wisdom. Among the devil creatures that have gained spiritual wisdom, if one of them breaks through to the void-shedding realm, he will be qualified to become a lord of a territory. If he breaks through to the thought fragmentation realm, he can become a devil lord of a territory. This devil did not break through to the void-shedding realm. However, he has a devil lord as his master. That's why he could dominate the 7th floor and become a lord of a territory. In the 7th floor of the divine tomb, there are a total of 8 lords of void-shedding realm. In the 8th floor, there are more than 30 lords of void-shedding realm. There is even a thought fragmentation devil lord who is this devil's master. This devil doesn't know the map of the 9th floor. He also doesn't know how many powerful devil creatures there are in the 9th floor. However, it is said that there is a well of contracts in the 9th floor. Therefore, the number of devil creatures there is also the strongest. Especially near the devil well, there are even quasi-emperor realm devil creatures. There is a mark left by his master in this devil's body. If he dies, his master will certainly sense it. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He scanned the body with his spirit sense, and immediately found a mark in the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes. The mark was originally black. However, at this moment it gradually turned blood red. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. Without saying a word, he directly threw the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes away. After that he kept the ancient devil puppet. Then he changed his face and summoned Ghost Face. Immediately, he turned invisible and quietly flew towards the 9th floor. At the moment when he threw the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes away, a ray of red light immediately flew out from the mark in the young man's primordial spirit. As soon as the red light landed on the ground, it immediately turned into the appearance of an old man with red eyes. He was holding the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes in his hand. "Who is it? How dare you destroy the intelligence of my disciple?" There was one thing that he did not tell his disciple. In fact, the mark that he planted could not only sense his disciple's death, but also slightly sense his disciple's situation when he is in danger. Then he could use the mark to directly teleport over. Of course, the memories of the young man in black robes would not mention this. However, Ningfan's sharp senses had detected the strange changes in the mark. He guessed that something unforeseen would happen, and immediately fled from this place. In the end, the master of the young man in black robes was a step too late. Otherwise, he would be able to witness the scene of Ningfan searching his soul and memory with his own eyes. There is still a trace of his qi here. The old man with red eyes grabbed the air and sniffed it. Then he let out a cold humph and said, "A peak ghost profound realm puppet, and an early shedding void realm puppet. So, they are cultivators from the outside world. My contract devil had once made a contract with Emperor Shin Space. The agreement between me and him was that as long as I help him in a battle, I can stay in the divine tomb forever and become the king of a region. Even if he is a divine void realm cultivator, I also have the right to kill and devour him. I have spent 1,000,000 years to raise him to the peak true crossing realm. Originally, I wanted to keep him, but now, his intelligence has been destroyed by a cultivator from the outside world. He is useless now." The old man glanced at the primordial spirit of his disciple, which had a blank look in his hand. A ruthless expression flashed across his face, and he swallowed his disciple's primordial spirit. Then his eyes flickered and he sneered. "The one who harmed my disciple is just a ghost profound realm cultivator. It is impossible for him to run far in such a short amount of time. At this moment, he is either hiding in a small kiliacosm or a middle kiliacosm cosmos treasure." After pondering for a moment, the red-eyed old man suddenly stretched out 2 fingers and poked them into his eyes. He then grabbed the bloody red eyeball and threw it into the sky. After that, he closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the ground. As soon as the eyeball rose to the sky, it immediately grew to 100 zhong in size. Immediately, circles of red light spread to the entire 8th floor with the eyeball as the center. With the power of the eyeball, the red-eyed old man spread his vision to the entire 8th floor of the divine tomb. If this young man passes through the teleportation gate, there will certainly be some fluctuations. If he cancels his invisibility, there will certainly be a moment when he shows himself. Even if he hides in a cosmos treasure, I don't believe that he can hide for the rest of his life. As long as he shows up in the 8th floor, or if there is any fluctuation, I will certainly be able to detect him. At that time, it will be the death of this young man." Ningfan concealed his body and rushed towards the teleportation gate of the 9th floor. At a certain moment, circles of red light swept across the sky and swept past Ningfan's body. Even though it did not detect Ningfan's location, Ningfan could tell at a glance that the red light was a kind of detection ability. Moreover, judging from the qi of this magic technique, the one who cast it was the master of the black-robed young man. This is a little troublesome. There is still a long distance between this place and the teleportation gate of the 9th floor. With my current speed, I might need at least 10 days to get there. During this period of time, the Ghost Face's invisibility ability will certainly be cancelled. As Ningfan's cultivation base increased, the duration of the innate Ghost Face's invisibility ability also increased. However, it still could not stay invisible for 10 days at a time. At most, it could stay for 5 days. If he enters the profound Een world before the invisibility ability ends, he would be able to reach the teleportation gate. However, there would also be other troubles. Even if I can stay invisible all the way to the teleportation gate of the 9th floor, once I teleport, I will immediately cause fluctuations and be discovered by this person. Even if I teleport back to the 7th floor, I will still be discovered by this person. A sense of danger that he had not felt for a long time gradually lingered in Ning Fan's heart. At the moment when this sense of danger rose, the bloodline of the 3 clans in Ning Fan's body who was flying on black flames vaguely felt like it was boiling. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's eyes turned cold, and he made up his mind. He touched his glabella and took out a green lightning and swallowed it in one go. With his great 5 elements physique, refining the green lightning could continuously restore a large amount of magic power. Just by refining a trace of the green lightning, the extra magic power in his body almost made his primordial spirit explode. Before his primordial spirit exploded, his body was already ignited with golden flames, consuming all the excess magic power. Like an arrow that left the bow, he pierced through the sky, leaving a trail of golden light that was 10,000 zhang long and dashed towards the 9th floor. If I can't avoid it, there's no need to. Moreover, when I reach the 9th floor, I will conceal myself and get rid of the red-eyed old man's pursuit. I found him. But how could this person's speed be so fast? Could he be an ancient monster? No, it's impossible. If he is an ancient monster, why would he be afraid of me? Why would he conceal himself? The red-eyed old man's eyes widened. He suddenly rose to his feet and retracted his eyeballs. After pondering for a while, he still decided to chase after Ning Fan. However, his speed was not enough to catch up with Ning Fan. In the world of the 8th floor, countless devil creatures who had cultivated their spiritual wisdom left their caves and nests at this moment, and looked up at the sky. Looking at the golden rainbow that pierced through the sky and disappeared in a flash, none of them were not shocked. Ning Fan quickly refined the green lightning in his body, trying to replenish the magic power of the golden light. The speed of this technique was comparable to that of an ancient monster. However, it also consumed an extremely large amount of magic power. Borrowing the suppression of the ghost face, Ning Fan forcefully activated this technique. The journey that should have taken 6 days only took him slightly more than 10 breaths. The golden rainbow crashed into the teleportation portal, and immediately sped across the world of the 9th floor, alarming countless experts in the area. At the moment when the green lightning in his body was about to be completely exhausted, Ning Fan withdrew the rainbow and directly entered the profound Yin world. Almost 2 hours later, the red-eyed old man finally arrived at the world of the 9th floor. However, at this moment, Ning Fan was already nowhere to be found. The chi of the golden light that he saw earlier had also disappeared. He had no idea where he should go to find Ning Fan at all. Damn it! This cunning brat actually managed to escape from me. There are a lot of experts in the 9th floor. I can't simply use the blood vision technique here. Otherwise, it will certainly arouse the other devil lord's fear. If I go looking for him without any clues, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to find this brat. I might as well wait for him here. No matter what, this brat is still a cultivator from the outside world. He will leave the 9th floor sooner or later. Humph. I don't believe that he won't show himself while I'm waiting at this door. Chapter 828. For 10 consecutive days, Ning Fan stayed in the profound Yin world to avoid using a secret technique to refine his primordial spirit while waiting. There were already nearly 600 primordial spirits in his storage pouch. Among them, there were 19 primordial spirits of Duzhen. With the number of primordial spirits he had now, even an early void-shedding old monster would have to retreat immediately if he uses the Spirit Blast technique. 10 days later, Ning Fan stood in the profound Yin world and used the rain technique. When he realized that there were no abnormalities in the outside world, and there was no detection technique from the red-eyed old man, he finally appeared in the outside world with his invisibility ability. There was no abnormality in the outside world, and the red-eyed old man did not seem to be chasing after him. With the help of the Yin-Yang locket, Ning Fan searched for the direction of the chaotic ancient tomb palace. When he reached the 9th floor, the locket could finally guide him to the location of the chaotic ancient tomb palace. In this way, it saved Ning Fan the trouble of searching for the map of the 9th floor. After confirming a direction, Ning Fan flew at full speed while remaining invisible. In this floor, he could feel countless obscure but terrifying chi. There were void-shedding old monsters, broken thoughts, and even the chi of an ancient being. It was said that there was a contract well in this divine tomb which was directly connected to the devil world. That day, the quasi-emperor who looked like Emoluo had used the contract well to come to the eastern heaven immortal world. Some of the devils here came from the devil world while the rest were formed naturally. In this world, mountains, water, plants and even pills could turn into devils. As long as anything has spirituality, it would have the possibility of turning into devils. The world of the 9th floor was divided into two regions, the east and the west. The further to the west, the more chi of devils and the more experts there were. The further to the east, the lesser the chi of devils. On the first day, there were many void-shedding old monsters and broken thoughts along the way. On the second day, there were no more void-shedding old monsters along the way. On the third day, there were no more void-shedding old monsters. On the fourth day, there were very few void-shedding old monsters and life-immortal monsters. On the fifth day, there were no more devils in the vast world. Ning Fan exited his invisibility ability and flew in the vast sky of the eastern region. He could not find a single hair of a devil in the vast mountains and rivers. After flying for another day, a few tomb palaces gradually appeared in front of his eyes. The tomb palaces in the 9th floor were all 9-star cultivation methods. The masters of the tomb palaces were all famous figures in the world when they were still alive. Any random tomb palace exuded an immortal aura, as if it could suppress the ages. Ning Fan casually landed in front of one of the tombs. With his current cultivation base, if he did not summon his ghost face, he would not be able to withstand the chi of the tombs and approach the tombs within a distance of 1,000 zhang. Then he summoned the ancient fiend puppet again. Even with its cultivation base, it still couldn't get within 300 meters of the tomb. In other words, even if the cultivators who entered the 9th floor had the void token, if they couldn't withstand the chi of the tomb palace, they wouldn't be able to get close to it and open the tomb palace. With a wave of his hand, Ning Fan summoned Ghost Face and tried again. Finally, he was able to withstand the chi of the grave palace and approached the door. Without opening the door of the tomb, he only had 5 Void Realm tokens with him. He would not waste them recklessly. Moreover, opening the door to the 9th layer of the tomb was filled with unfathomable dangers. Even if it was the chaotic ancient tomb palace, Ning Fan was not sure if he would encounter any danger inside. Thus, he would not casually enter other tomb palaces. Outside the tomb palace, there were 15 sets of broken bones, as well as some broken pieces of Dao crystals, pills, magical treasures, storage bags. These broken bones belonged to cultivators who had failed to enter the tomb. Their deaths were incomparably miserable, and their corpses were incomplete. After flying eastward for another 2 days, there were more and more tomb palaces. After flying for another 2 days, there were fewer and fewer tomb palaces. Gradually, there were no longer any tomb palaces on the mountains and rivers. After flying for another day, in the depths of a desolate mountain, there was a lonely tomb palace that had existed for a long time. The moment he approached the tomb palace, the yin-yang locket in Ning Fan's body almost lost control and flew out of his body on its own. Ning Fan's expression changed. He immediately circulated the yin-yang transformation to suppress the loss of control of the yin-yang locket. When he looked at the tomb palace again, his face gradually turned solemn. This tomb was the ancient chaotic tomb. The journey to the bottom of the divine tomb was filled with dangers. Ning Fan's goal was just to obtain the inheritance in this tomb. This tomb was different from the other tomb palaces. It did not emit any aura force. It just stood there as if it was extremely ordinary. If it wasn't because of the 3,000 piles of broken bones outside the tomb, Ning Fan would almost think that this tomb was extremely easy to enter, and there would not be any danger. Among these broken bones, there were the remains of cultivators who were shedding Kong and sense-breaking cultivators. There were even some broken bones of cultivators who had lost all their spiritual nature. Even Ning Fan felt a little shocked when he saw the 3,000 piles of broken bones outside the tomb palace. During my journey, it was already rare to find more than 10 skeletons outside the tomb palace. However, there are 3,000 cultivators' skeletons outside the tomb. This not only shows that this tomb is highly valued by others, but also shows that this tomb is filled with unfathomable dangers which the other tomb palaces cannot be compared to. These 3,000 skeletons seemed to be reminding Ning Fan that it was really unwise for him to enter the ancient chaotic tomb with his low cultivation base. Maybe, just maybe, it would be more rational for him to enter this tomb when his cultivation base is higher, and his ability to protect himself is stronger. As soon as these thoughts emerged in Ning Fan's mind, they were immediately ingrained in his mind, causing him to remain silent. When his eyes swept across the giant monument outside the tomb, and saw the introduction on it, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with shock. Apart from being tempted, he was even more shocked. The ancient chaotic tomb palace has a 9 stars cultivation method, chaotic ring's secret art. In ancient times, this cultivation method was known as the strongest attack among a billion great emperors. The tomb palace's cultivation base restriction, none. Number restriction, none. To open this tomb, 1 void token will be consumed. What moved him was that the chaotic ring's secret art was known as the strongest attack cultivation method among a billion great emperors. What shocked him was that this tomb had no restriction on the number of people or cultivation base. Yet so many experts had died. This silently showed how dangerous and terrifying this ancient chaotic tomb palace was. If Ning Fan had some confidence in entering the tomb before this, he had almost lost all of his confidence at this moment. He couldn't open the jade slip given by Sha Di in this place. If he entered the tomb recklessly with his current means of self-defense, he was afraid that there was a high chance that he would die. I must get the chaotic ring's secret art. But if it's really that dangerous, I'm afraid that the best way to enter this tomb is to increase my cultivation base. Ning Fan sighed softly. Ning Fan let out a soft sigh. Just as he let out a sigh, his expression changed immediately. At this moment, the ancient chaotic tomb palace suddenly emitted a faint divine light. There was even an old voice that sounded like a summoning voice resounding in Ning Fan's ears. Outsiders who enter the palace will only die. But I will allow you to enter, because you are this emperor's successor. At the moment when the voice resounded, a void token flew out from Ning Fan's storage pouch and flew towards the entrance of the tomb. Outside the entrance of the tomb, the void token suddenly ignited without any fire. The eyes of the 2 stone statues on both sides of the tomb palace were ignited with purple flames. With a loud bang, the entrance of the tomb opened by itself. A ray of light flashed in front of Ning Fan. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with surprise. When he was about to resist the light, the yin-yang locket in his body directly dragged him into the tomb. In the next moment, the tomb door closed. What entered his sight was an empty palace. There were 4 bronze palace lanterns at the 4 corners of the palace. They were extinguished, but after Ning Fan entered, each of the lanterns was immediately lit up with purple flames. In this palace, there were a total of 27 bronze statues. Under the bronze statues, there was an illusory old man standing with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the 27 bronze statues in silence. This illusory old man's back gave Ning Fan an extremely familiar feeling. Ning Fan tried to recall, and immediately remembered that he had seen this back in the memories of ancient chaos. It was exactly the same as the appearance of ancient chaos great emperor. Ning Fan could not see through the illusory old man's cultivation base at all. He was only facing Ning Fan with his back and did not release any aura force. Even so, the innate ghost mask on Ning Fan's face was slightly trembling, as if it was afraid of this illusory old man. If there was no mistake, this illusory old man was the illusion of ancient chaos great emperor that was formed by the formation of the tomb palace. Just by facing the illusory old man's back, Ning Fan felt like he was facing the entire world. Even Xiang Bozi, who was a quasi-saint of the godly void pavilion, did not give Ning Fan such a terrifying feeling. It was as if this illusory old man only needed a single thought to destroy the entire world. No one has ever entered this tomb before. Anyone who enters this tomb will die in my hands. Because they are not my inheritors. If they are not my inheritors, they are not qualified to receive my inheritance. As for you, you are my inheritor. Little friend, I have been waiting for an inheritor for far too long. The illusory old man turned around and glanced at Ning Fan. All of Ning Fan's secrets were immediately exposed in front of the old man. Ning Fan did not expect that there would be such a terrifying illusion of the Tomb Lord in the ancient Chaos Tomb Palace. With this illusion of the Tomb Lord, Even the Divine Void Emperor and Xiang Bozi would not be able to pass through this tomb. 4 drops of Fu Li ancestral blood and 4 drops of Mo Luo ancestral blood. The grade of the demon blood and devil blood are still passable, but the divine blood is too weak. To the illusory old man, the grade of Ningfan's bloodline could only be considered passable. His eyes were as calm as the void, as if there was nothing in the world that could surprise him. However, after a while, the illusory old man's eyes suddenly changed slightly as if he had discovered something. He lifted his finger and pointed at the ground of the palace. The entire ground immediately rippled like water, and one could even see their own reflections. There was no reflection under the feet of the illusory old man, because he was not a living person but an illusion. However, under Ningfan's feet, there was the reflection of a butterfly that was half black and half white. The moment the illusory old man saw the butterfly, his expression finally changed. "It's you. You are that butterfly. That woman came to the Zido immortal region for you. For you, she gave up everything and re-entered the cycle of reincarnation." Ningfan's expression changed and he immediately asked, "Senior, what do you mean?" It was as if there was something extremely important that had been annihilated in samsara and forgotten by him for generations. When he was still a butterfly, as soon as the illusory old man's words fell, an indescribable sorrow flowed through Ningfan's heart like a long river. It was not the sorrow of the ancient heavenly court, or the sorrow of Fenqi turning into ashes. That sorrow happened much earlier than that. It was so long ago that he had already forgotten about it. The illusory old man just sighed and shook his head without saying a word. When he looked at Ningfan again, there was a rare gentleness in his eyes. That gentleness was the kind of gaze one would use when looking at an old friend. In Ningfan's past life, he was a butterfly and he was the most ordinary butterfly. Such an ordinary butterfly should not have anything to do with the illusory old man. However, the owner of this butterfly's first life was once so powerful that it shook heaven and earth. In the past, he had never looked at this butterfly seriously. However, he did not expect that this butterfly would actually reincarnate into a human, and even become his successor. When he turned around again and looked at the 27 bronze statues, he also felt an inexplicable sadness. Then he suddenly asked Ningfan, "Do you want to obtain my inheritance of the chaotic ring's art?" As soon as he finished speaking, the illusory old man gave Ningfan a deep look. Without waiting for Ningfan's answer, he raised his hand and pointed at the first bronze statue. "Since you are an ancient devil, you should have been to the Devil Conferral Summit. I believe you have also met the owner of this bronze statue." Ningfan carefully looked at the appearance of the bronze statue. Vaguely, it looked somewhat similar to the young Emojong whom he had met in the past. He's the 7th immortal emperor under the celestial emperor. His name is Emojong. He's the only person I consider an elder brother. He is also one of the 27 yin-yang devils of my yin-yang devil body. Immortal Emperor Emojong, the 7th immortal emperor under the immortal emperor, was personally killed by me in the Battle of Heavenly Capital World. One of the 9 demons yin-yang, demonic carp yin-yang, this old man was able to comprehend it. As he spoke about how he had personally killed immortal Emperor Emojong, the illusory old man's body immediately emitted a towering murderous aura. His eyes began to turn blood red, and there was an unshakable sorrow in his eyes. That day, he had personally killed Emojong, whom he had viewed as a brother. Chapter 829. The 7th immortal emperor under the immortal sovereign, Great Emperor Mo, died at the hands of the ancient Chaos Emperor? Ningfan's expression suddenly changed. He had never heard of such an ancient secret before. Not many people in this world would know about it. He remembered that when he was at the Devil Conferral Summit, the illusion of the young Great Emperor Mo had given him an extra drop of ancestral blood, because of his identity as the descendant of ancient chaos. Ancient chaos viewed Emojong as his elder brother, yet he killed his own elder brother. However, in his eyes, there was a sadness that could not be erased. Why did he want to kill Great Emperor Emojong, who was like an elder brother? This question lingered in Ningfan's mind, but he naturally could not find an answer to it. The ancient chaos illusion did not seem to have the intention to answer Ningfan's question. He slowly moved towards the second bronze statue. When he looked at the second bronze statue, the sorrow in ancient Chaos's eyes intensified. The second bronze statue was an old Taoist with a kind face. Behind him was a bronze ring. That copper ring was extremely similar to the ring shadow behind Sun Luo, when he activated the samsara power with all his might. First Saint Ring. This bronze statue is the statue of a third-step saint. Ning Fan's expression changed again. That's right. The second bronze statue is an incipient saint. There are 1 billion immortal emperors in the Purple Do immortal domain, and 400 people whose cultivation base has reached the third step. Since they are saints, they only listen to orders and not listen to orders. He is one of them. He is my master. Of course, the guidance he gave me was not as much as the immortal emperor, but if it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be me. The expression of ancient chaos illusion became gentle in an instant, as if he was thinking of something. Back then, he was only the son of a low-level cultivation country in the ancient celestial realm. He was only 4 years old and ignorant. That year, Xiu country was invaded. The country was destroyed, his family was destroyed and all his relatives were killed. He stayed by his parents' bodies and cried. It was his master who saved him from the chaos. Why are you crying? A man only knows how to cry. If the country was destroyed, it would be rebuilt. Since my relatives are all dead, I will avenge them. Why is she crying more and more fiercely? If you cry again, even if your enemies don't kill you, this old man will be the first to kill you. Fine, I'm afraid of you. Come on, don't cry, change. Look, what's this? It's a sugar man. Hee, now you won't cry anymore, right? It is fate that brought us together. Little kid, be my disciple. I will give you the Taoist name, Ancient Chaos. What? You don't like this Taoist name? You don't want to be my disciple? Do you know how many experts in the Ziwei celestial realm are fighting to be my disciple? The past was still vivid in his mind, and Ancient Chaos could not help but smile. But then, the murderous aura around him became thicker. His eyes became blood red, and the sorrow in his eyes became thicker. He was clearly standing there, but his back view was bleak and heart-wrenching. Great Sage Lu Yuan, ranked 344 among the 400 saints of Purple Do immortal domain. He is my master and also my father. He died in my hands during the battle of the North Pole realm. This man is the first yin-yang of my 9 divine yin-yang, fierce origin yin-yang. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with surprise. He was surprised that the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor had the strength to kill a saint. Could it be that he was a saint himself? He was surprised that the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor had not only killed his elder brother, but also his master. An immortal emperor is not necessarily weaker than a saint. Mo Zhong and I both have the strength to kill an ordinary incipient saint. The ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor muttered to himself, as if he had seen through Ning Fan's thoughts and answered his doubts. His cloudy old eyes seemed to have become moist. He walked towards the third bronze statue step by step, and introduced it to Ning Fan along the way. Extreme Brightness Devil Emperor, ranked 49th under Immortal Sovereign Zido. This man had fought alongside me against enemies several times and entrusted his life to me. He is one of the few friends I have. He died in my hands during the battle of the Falling Flame World. The first yin-yang of my 9 devil yin-yang was formed because of him. Heavenly Venerate Wei Kai, ranked 397th among the 400 saints of Purple Do immortal domain. She had feelings for me. She died in my hands during the Dao Realm Rebellion. Heavenly Nightmare Great Emperor, ranked 96th under Immortal Sovereign Zido. I owe this man a favor. He died in my hands during the Battle of the Tribulation Realm. Lu Nansheng. This man had once borrowed my Heavenly Mystery Scroll to read. I still owe him a promise. He died in my hands during the great calamity of the Demon Realm. The ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor finished introducing all the 26 bronze statues. Every time he introduced a person, the sadness and killing intent in his eyes would become denser. Ning Fan's heart gradually felt a chill down his spine. These 26 people were all outstanding figures whose name shook the entire Purple Do immortal domain during their lifetime. More or less, they had a close relationship with the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor. But all of them were killed by him. Why did the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor kill so many of his masters and friends? Why did the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor complete the so-called 27 yin yang by one person every time he killed? What were the 27 yin yang? Ning Fan had no idea. However, a horrifying guess suddenly appeared in his mind. Could it be that the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor had killed all of his masters and friends just to cultivate the 27 yin yang divine ability? Is the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor actually such a cold-blooded person? Ning Fan was not sure about this. The ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor did not seem to be lying about his achievements in killing these experts. The sadness in his eyes did not seem to be a lie either. Finally, the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor arrived in front of the last bronze statue. It was a smiling female cultivator. She was sitting under a Bodhi tree, staring blankly at the sky. Looking at this woman, the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor's shoulders suddenly trembled. The sadness in his eyes had turned into tears and flowed down his face. It was as if there was a soft and tender voice that was still echoing in his ears. For this voice he had rejected the affection of countless female cultivators, like Heavenly Venerable Weaver Cloud and Primogenitor Divine Void. Ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor, I will wait for you under the Bodhi tree for a lifetime. You must come back alive. If you die, I will follow you. I will follow you. I will follow you. He had finally returned to the Bodhi tree, but he had killed her with his own hands. Yao. The ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor stretched out his trembling hand and touched the face of the woman in the bronze statue. His heart was bleeding. He had killed his master, his friends and all his benefactors. Of course, his heart was filled with unwillingness, indignation, guilt and helplessness. However, after killing this woman, he had lost the entire world in an instant. From now on, there was no longer anything in this world that was worthy of his attention. His back was so lonely and full of remorse. His sadness dispersed, as if the entire heaven and earth was going to melt into his sadness. Yao, an immortal emperor ranked after 100,000 under immortal sovereign Zido. She was my Tao companion. She was my everything. She didn't wait for my return in the Bodhi world. She was killed by me during the battle of the collapse of Heaven Wasteland. She died in my hands. She made my 27 yin and yang complete. The sadness in the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor's eyes reached its peak at this moment. His eyes gradually turned cold and merciless. His blood-red eyes were like a world-destroying devil lord. The killing intent in his body was as if he wanted to kill every living thing in the world. At this moment, the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor suddenly turned around and stared at Ning Fan with a cold and merciless expression. Do you want to obtain my inheritance, the Chaotic Rings art? Do you want to obtain the Chaotic Rings art which has the highest offensive power among 1 billion great emperors? He did not take half a step forward. Just his gaze alone seemed to have triggered the great momentum of the entire heaven and earth, pressing down on Ning Fan. At this moment, Ning Fan seemed to have turned into a lonely boat. He could not move even half a step in the face of this terrifying aura force. Do you want to learn the Chaotic Rings art? If you master this technique, you will be able to cultivate the Yin-Yang Devil Body. The Yin-Yang Devil Body is divided into 27 layers of Yin and Yang. Even if you only cultivate the first layer, it will be enough to make you invincible when you are still at the late True Crossing realm, when you are still at the profound Ghost realm. If you cultivate the 27 layers of Yin and Yang, you will be able to fight against ordinary incipient saints even if you have yet to step into the third step. If you cultivate the Chaotic Rings art and your cultivation base is sufficient, you can even combine Yin and Yang and cultivate the primordial Qi on your own. Your chances of stepping into the third step will be very high. If you cultivate the Chaotic Rings art, no cultivator in this world at the same level as you will be able to fight against you. Do you want to become the cultivator with the highest offensive power in the world in the future? Do you want to become the only sage in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds in this lawless era? The voice of the ancient chaos illusion was like an inner devil that immediately grew crazily in Ning Fan's heart. His Tao heart was definitely considered as sturdy among those at the same level as him. However, it was not without flaws and cracks. Ning Fan's biggest inner devil was his desire to improve his cultivation base and strength to protect the people behind him. He had never gotten rid of his inner devil. At this moment, this inner devil was growing crazily in his heart. There was a moment of greed and desire in his eyes. He wanted to obtain the chaotic rings art of the ancient chaos great emperor, and obtain the opportunity to step into the third step realm. He wanted to become the strongest expert in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds. Because if he becomes the strongest expert in the world, he would no longer need to kill or hide. It would be easy for him to protect whoever he wants. Yes, I want the chaotic rings art. Ning Fan felt like he was possessed again. His heart wavered crazily. The ancient chaos illusion smiled coldly. All of a sudden, his eyes were filled with killing intent. Immediately, 2 rays of red light shot out and went into Ning Fan's eyes. I want the chaotic rings art. Easy. I'll kill all of your parents, masters, friends and Dao companions. Then, you will be able to cultivate the 27 Yin-Yang Dao, and you will be qualified to receive my inheritance. Are you willing to become a devil who kills his own family to attain the Dao and inherit all of my inheritance? Are you willing? The moment the 2 rays of red light shot into Ning Fan's body, his heart, which was being ravaged by the inner devil, immediately sobered up. The moment he sobered up, he felt a sense of horror. Inside his body, there were 2 rays of red light rampaging crazily. The red light seemed to have a demonic power that could bewitch people. In just an instant, it covered his eyes, his cultivation base, his primordial spirit and everything about him. His body no longer seemed to be his own body. His cultivation no longer obeyed his command. In the world of his mind, there were constantly red rays of lightning that spread across the sky and earth, robbing his mind completely. In the endless world of red light, there was only one place which was still half black and half white. That was where his Tao was, resisting the invasion of the red light. In this world of red light, there were countless red shadows that looked the same as Ning Fan. They were sneering incessantly, and had already fallen into the devil Tao. These red shadows either had greedy eyes, ferocious eyes or a bloodthirsty sneer. Only in that place which was half black and white, there was a Ning Fan who wore snow-white robes, guarding his mind with all his might. Ning Fan looked at the sky full of red shadows in the world of his mind. His expression was filled with shock and anger. There seemed to be countless bewitching voices beside his ears, tempting him to follow the order of the ancient chaos illusion, cultivate the chaotic rings art, and attain the Tao by killing his own family. His body had already succumbed to the rule of the red light. He walked towards the ancient chaos illusion step by step, as if he wanted to accept the inheritance of the ancient chaos illusion. The next step was to kill his own family. He could not control his body at all. At the moment when the red light entered his body, he could no longer control his body. Moreover, Ning Fan had a feeling that if he lost the last bit of black and white in this world of his mind, he would be completely controlled by the red light. Unless he died, he would never be able to escape from the control of the red light. What exactly is this red light? This kind of power gives me a feeling like the power of samsara. However, its essence is the exact opposite of the power of samsara. I can't resist it. I can't resist it. The corrosion of this red light is too terrifying. It's not something I can resist at all. The last bit of black and white in the world was being corroded by the red light bit by bit, turning into decay. The last white-robed Ning Fan finally turned into a blood shadow bit by bit. Countless blood shadows of Ning Fan finally cheered in this world of his mind. They wanted to cultivate the chaotic rings art. They wanted to follow the order of the ancient chaos illusion, and attain the Tao by killing his own family. Inside the tomb palace, Ning Fan's eyes had completely turned blood red. The corner of his mouth curved into a hideous smile. He stared at ancient chaos illusion greedily with a sinister smile. He was the Ning Fan who was completely controlled by the red light. Once he obtained the chaotic rings art, he would start a massacre in all directions once he got out of this tomb palace. He would first kill his own family. His father Yin Tianjue kill. His mother Ning Qian kill. His younger brother, Ning Fan, who had reincarnated into the mortal world, kill. His master, Han Yuanji kill. And those beauties, each and every one of them. Kill, kill, kill. He wanted to kill everything. He wanted to become the only saint in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds. He wanted to control everything in this world. He wanted to kill, kill, kill. However, after killing everything, what was left of him? What was left of him? What was left of him? A trace of bewilderment gradually flowed in Ning Fan's eyes. Ning Fan's eyes were bloodshot. Suddenly, he raised his hand and punched heavily on his chest. He did not hold back any strength in this punch. For this punch, he would rather destroy this crippled body of his in this palace tomb than allow himself to kill his own kin. After the punch hit his body immediately burned with a half-black and half-white flame. That flame was formed by his Tao of obsession. The red light could strip him of his cultivation, strip him of his body, strip him of everything, but it couldn't strip him of his Tao. This obsession would never fade away in the reincarnation cycle. It would remain in his heart for generations to come. This obsession could not be extinguished by anything. This young man actually wants to commit suicide here. Under the cold eyes of ancient chaos's illusion, there was a hint of emotion hidden within. Ning Fan suddenly took a step forward. His whole body was burning and the red light in his eyes faded away. His eyes became cold and fierce again. He stared at ancient chaos's illusion coldly without any fear. There was only anger. He was not afraid of this illusion. He was not afraid. He was Guixian. This illusion was even scarier than Xiang Bozi. But so what? He originally came for the other half of ancient chaos inheritance. However, if this inheritance required him to sacrifice all his family members to cultivate it, he would rather not have it. He would rather commit suicide here than to implicate the people behind him. As for the ancient chaos illusion that caused him to come to this place, he must make him pay no matter what. Ancient chaos. Without your inheritance, I wouldn't be who I am today. I remember your kindness and respect you as my master. That's why I've decided to seek the other half of your inheritance. However, this doesn't mean that you can plant divine abilities on me, seize my body, my cultivation base and everything I have. Moreover, I won't allow you to use my body to destroy the people behind me. You can strip me of everything, but you can't take away my Tao. At this moment, what ancient chaos illusion saw wasn't Guixian who was walking towards him step by step, but a butterfly. A butterfly that would rather be incinerated into ashes than collide with him. A butterfly that dared to confront an expert with its weak body. There was a Tao that couldn't be ignored on the body of this butterfly. As he burned himself, it became stronger and stronger. Although what I planted in his body was only 1/10,000th of the tribulation sense, I didn't expect that he could suppress it with his own Tao. Although this young man's baleful qi is heavy, I was still worried about his temperament. But now, it seems like this young man would rather commit suicide than hurt his own master. Naturally, he isn't a heartless person. He has passed the test. In all these years, among all the cultivators who entered this palace, only this young man has passed the test. The cold intent in ancient chaos illusion's eyes gradually faded. Looking at Ning Fan who was walking towards him step by step, he suddenly nodded his head in satisfaction. With a wave of his hand, he dispersed the red light in Ning Fan's body at lightning speed. Even the flames of Ning Fan's self-destruction were extinguished one by one. Before Ning Fan could react, he had already condensed a jade slip, threw it to Ning Fan and said apologetically, "What I said before has some truth and some lies. Even the red light was a test for little friend. As for the details, little friend will naturally know after reading the jade slip. What is recorded in this jade slip is another cultivation technique that this old man has created apart from the yin-yang transformation, the chaotic loop art." Chapter 830. It was as if there was a gentle force that swept across Ning Fan's body. All of a sudden, the red light in Ning Fan's body disappeared mysteriously. The Tao fire that was burning on his body also vanished. Then, the ancient chaos illusion actually threw a jade slip at him, and said something that made Ning Fan feel inexplicable. Even with Ning Fan's intelligence, he was stunned after seeing the jade slip with his spirit sense. The jade slip recorded the complete cultivation method of the chaos loop art. This cultivation method recorded the specific cultivation method of the yin-yang devil body. The content of this cultivation method didn't require the cultivator to kill their own kin to prove their Tao. That red light is called tribulation sense. However, it isn't the real tribulation sense. It's just a test that I gave you. It's also a gift of fortune. Even if you can't resist this tribulation sense, I won't hurt you. The voice of the ancient chaos illusion entered Ning Fan's ears. Test. Fortune. Ning Fan's eyes darkened and looked at the illusion doubtfully. Just now, he really had a trip to the gates of hell, and wanted to kill himself. The moment the red light entered his body, he couldn't even activate the illusion life pill in his body to protect himself. But now the illusion of ancient chaos told him that everything before was fake. It was all a test and a chance. He couldn't accept it for a moment. Little friend, if you don't believe me, you can look inside your body and see if there are any changes in your body. The illusion said indifferently. After hearing this, Ning Fan immediately looked inside his body. The moment he did, his expression changed. There was a trace of red light flowing in the depths of his blood. That was the red light that the illusion planted in his body. Most of it had been dispersed by the ancient chaos illusion. Only a small amount of it had fused with Ning Fan's blood. This thing has fused with my blood. Why is it my fortune? Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. Previously, the red light had almost taken everything from him. So he was deeply fearful of this strange red light. Isn't a trace of tribulation blood from the Taitsong Jieling considered a fortune? Try again. Can this level of tribulation sense still hurt you? Halfway through his words, the illusion suddenly raised his hand. Another ray of red light swept towards Ning Fan fiercely. Ning Fan's expression changed. Without saying a word, his body flashed and disappeared on the spot, trying to avoid the red light. However, the red light also flashed and disappeared without a trace. In the next instant, a dazzling red light suddenly exploded in an uninhabited area not far away. It was Ning Fan who was struck by the red light, forcing him to reveal himself. Not good. Ning Fan's face was filled with shock. He wanted to protect his mind again, but this time, he realized that even though the red light entered his body, he no longer showed any signs of falling into the devil Tao. The trace of red light in my blood actually has the ability to resist this red light. Is this red light called tribulation sense? Ning Fan's eyes widened. Ning Fan did not know what tribulation sense was, but he could vaguely sense that it was another type of power that was on par with the power of samsara. Just a trace of this red light was enough to make Ning Fan, who had a firm Tao heart, go mad. That trace of red light was enough to drive any emptiness cultivator insane. If this red light was 10 times stronger, even a thought-shattering cultivator would find it hard to escape its control. If it was 100 times more, then even the ancient cultivators would be in trouble. If it was 1,000 times or 10,000 times more, the power of this red light was extremely terrifying. Now Ning Fan's blood seemed to have fused with a trace of red light. Now he would no longer fall into a state of madness if he was struck by a tribulation sense of the same level as the ancient chaos illusion. What I used on you is just 1/10,000th of the tribulation sense. If it's complete, you definitely won't be able to withstand it. Even an incipient Saint Realm expert wouldn't be able to resist it, and could only fall into oblivion. Suddenly, ancient chaos illusion's eyes turned gloomy, and looked at the 27 bronze statues behind him. After a moment of silence, he continued. What I said to you before has some truth and some lies. What I did was just a test. Perhaps you still can't believe it for a while. Then, I'll give you the first gift for passing the test. You follow me. The ancient chaos illusion suddenly took a step forward, and spread out a trace of Tao sense. At the next moment, he and Ning Fan disappeared from the vast sky and reappeared in the sky above the Tomb Palace. At the moment when the ancient chaos illusion left the Tomb Palace, an invisible aura force immediately spread across the 9th level of the Divine Tomb. All of a sudden, in the 9th level of the Divine Tomb, be it the devil creatures with spiritual intelligence or the devil creatures without spiritual intelligence, all of them trembled in fear when they felt the aura force of the ancient chaos illusion. It's that great sovereign. It's him. He's going to come out of the tomb to kill again. Countless devil creatures with spiritual intelligence exclaimed at the same time, and went back to their caves and lairs to hide. Few people knew that the reason why the devil creatures did not dare to come close to the eastern region was because they were extremely afraid of the ancient chaos illusion. Theoretically speaking, in the divine tomb, any illusion in the tomb palace could only stay in its own tomb palace. The only exception was the ancient chaos tomb palace. It was not the first time for the ancient chaos illusion to leave the tomb palace. Every time he came out of the tomb, he would definitely kill a large number of people in the 9th level of the divine tomb, turning this place into a river of blood. The illusion of the tomb palace can actually leave the tomb palace. Ning Fan's eyes immediately widened. The ancient chaos illusion shook his head slightly. As an illusion, it's impossible for me to leave the tomb palace. You don't know the real reason why I was able to leave that palace. The truth is that the last 3 levels of the divine tomb are where this old man's tomb palace is located. It is the burial ground that the divine void primogenitor personally built for this old man. She absolutely has deep feelings for me. But this old man is destined to let her down. The last 3 levels of the divine tomb are where Senior's tomb palace is located. Ning Fan's eyes widened again. The first time you entered the divine tomb should have been 8 years ago. At that time, I had already sensed your arrival and was waiting for you to appear. However, at that time, you had yet to enter the last 3 levels. This time you've finally come. From the moment you stepped into the last 3 levels, my spirit sense has never left you. You don't know about this. When you were being chased by the divine void ancestor, I initially wanted to help you. However, I didn't expect you to solve the problem yourself. However, it seems like there are still some troubles that you can't solve. After all, you're just a ghost profound realm expert. It's already very rare for you to be able to achieve what you have today. As soon as he finished speaking, ancient chaos illusions Dao Sense moved and disappeared with Ning Fan on the spot. On the teleportation platform of the 9th level of the divine tomb, a red-eyed old man who was sitting cross-legged and waiting for his prey suddenly stood up in shock and gasped. Hiss! It's that malefic star. He went out of the palace to kill again. The reason why I refused to stay in the 9th level to be a devil lord is because I'm afraid of this malefic star. Otherwise, if I could stay in the 9th level to cultivate, I would have broken through to the mid-thought fragmentation realm a long time ago. Why would I still be an early thought fragmentation realm devil lord today? The red-eyed old man shuddered. Without any hesitation, he lifted his foot and was about to step into the teleportation portal to return to the 8th level. However, when half of his body entered the portal, the entire 9th level of the divine tomb suddenly shook violently, as if heaven and earth had been turned upside down by someone. The red-eyed old man who took half a step into the portal immediately spurted out a mouthful of blood and fell out of the portal. Without saying a word, he turned around and looked at the sky. In the sky, there was a white-robed young man who had a ghost profound realm cultivation base. It was none other than Ning Fan, the person whom the red-eyed old man had been chasing after all this time. If it was in the past, the red-eyed old man would certainly be overjoyed when he saw Ning Fan. Without hesitation, he would directly kill Ning Fan. However, at this moment, the red-eyed old man did not dare to act recklessly at all. It was because there was another illusory old man following beside Ning Fan. The moment the red-eyed old man saw the illusory old man, he immediately felt a chill from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. As soon as he made eye contact with the illusory old man, he immediately felt a piercing pain in his eyes. He hurriedly shifted his gaze away. Cold sweat had already soaked his entire body. Xue Daofei, do you know what mistake you've made? He is my disciple. How dare you try to kill him? You're courting death. As soon as the red-eyed old man heard what Xue Daofei said, his face immediately turned pale. He looked at Ning Fan in disbelief. Without saying a word, he directly fled towards the 8th level of the divine tomb. While fleeing, the red-eyed old man exclaimed in shock. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos! Have you lost your mind? When you fell, the divine tomb had yet to be built, and the well of contracts had yet to be opened. This young man is also far from being born. How could he possibly be your disciple? Even if you want to kill me, you have to give me a convincing reason. Otherwise, I won't accept it. I won't accept it. Based on the red-eyed old man's understanding of the ancient chaos illusion, If he directly went to find a devil and interrogate it, that devil would certainly die. Therefore, as soon as the red-eyed old man heard the tone of the ancient chaos illusion, he did not say a word and directly fled towards the 8th level. The ancient chaos illusion did not care about the red-eyed old man's words at all. He just glanced at Ning Fan beside him and said indifferently, "When I was alive, I had 2 cultivation methods that were the most shocking. One was the yin-yang transformation, and the other was the chaotic rings art. I also had 3 divine abilities that were feared by the world. One was the void Dao seizing, the other was the yin-yang 5 swords, and the last one was the chaotic heavenly finger. What I'm going to display now is the yin-yang 5 swords. The key to this technique is to first possess the great 5 elements body and use this body to reverse the 5 elements. The minor 5 elements are metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The great 5 elements are the foundation of the minor 5 elements. They are heaven, earth, human, spirit, and ghost. The heaven sword severs fate, the earth sword severs force, the human sword severs life, the divine sword severs Tao, and the ghost sword severs thoughts. After saying all these, the ancient chaos illusion suddenly grabbed towards the heaven and earth. Heaven and earth, yin and yang, all listen to my command. Condense. Suddenly, 5 sword shadows were condensed between heaven and earth. Sometimes, they were completely black and sometimes, they were completely white. It was extremely strange. The ferocious aura of the 5 sword shadows spread across the entire 9th level. At this moment, all the devils lowered their heads, not daring to look at the sky. As the ancient chaos illusion's voice fell, the 5 sword shadows immediately disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the red-eyed old man who was fleeing desperately in the 8th level of the divine tomb immediately revealed an extremely shocked expression. Immediately, 5 cracks of heaven and earth appeared behind him. From those cracks, 5 rays of sword light shone. No, not good. Before the red-eyed old man had the time to look back, he had already been slashed by the 5 rays of sword light. The moment he was slashed by the 5 rays of sword light, his luck, his cultivation, his Tao, and everything about him were all destroyed by the 5 rays of sword light. His eyes instantly became empty and lost all signs of life. There were 5 bloody holes on his body, which were caused by the sword shadows. In the next moment, 5 black and white flames shot out from the bloody holes. In just an instant, the red-eyed old man's body was directly burned to ashes. The 5 rays of sword light pierced through the red-eyed old man and slashed the ground of the 8th level. A destructive storm of sword light immediately spread out crazily with this place as the center. Mountains and rivers collapsed. Some devils who couldn't escape in time were directly killed in this storm. The entire 8th level was shaking violently. The shaking spread to the 9th level, the 7th level, the 6th level, and all the way to the 1st level. In the first 6 levels, the cultivators who were in the divine tomb, and those who were challenging the levels were all shaken by the shaking. They were directly shaken out of their respective tomb palaces, and were extremely shocked. Some of the old monsters of the Godly Void Pavilion immediately changed their expressions, and sent a message to the Godly Void Pavilion. They either took out a sound-transmitting flying sword, or took out a sound tablet. All of them were informing Emperor Shen Kong that there was another earthquake that happened once in 1,000 years at the bottom level of the Godly Void Pavilion. There was no need for any notification at all. At that moment, Emperor Shen Kong, who was in seclusion somewhere in the heavenly prison, had already sensed that something had happened in the divine tomb. The current him was already in the state of his primordial spirit. The injuries on his body were too severe, and he had already lost it. Other than the 2 generations of Emperor Shinsu, no one understood what the earthquake that happened once in 1,000 years meant. But he knew. Is it the ancient chaos illusion again? Without any hesitation, Emperor Shen Kong directly activated the trace of spirit sense that he had placed in the portal of the 9th level, in an attempt to sense the situation in the divine tomb. Before he could sense anything, a cold and harsh voice had already entered his ears. Once the voice was heard, it immediately turned into 5 rays of sword light, and exploded in Emperor Shen Kong's ears. Emperor Shen Kong, who was trying to pry into the 9th level, immediately trembled his primordial spirit, and coughed out a few mouthfuls of golden blood. His face was filled with shock. This generation's Shen Kong, have you forgotten the promise you made with me? If you recklessly spread out your spirit sense in this place again, and disturb my slumber, it won't be as simple as coughing up blood next time. As soon as his words fell, Emperor Shen Kong immediately felt that the spirit sense that he had placed in the last 3 levels was erased by someone. The person who erased his spirit sense had an exceedingly high cultivation base. If it wasn't just an illusion, and if all of his abilities weren't limited to the last 3 levels of the Divine Tomb, this person could destroy the 4 heavens and 9 worlds with his own strength and slaughter all the gods and devils in this world. His name was Ancient Chaos. He was an ancient great emperor, who was known as the one who created chaos in an immemorial era. Little friend, this is the first gift that I have given you. Are you satisfied with it? On the 9th level of the Divine Tomb, Ancient Chaos held the primordial spirit of the red-eyed elderly man, and said to Ning Fan with a smile. Chapter 831. Little friend, this is the first gift that I have given you. Are you satisfied with it? On the 9th level of the Divine Tomb, Ancient Chaos held the primordial spirit of the red-eyed elderly man, and said to Ning Fan with a smile. With a wave of his hand, he directly passed the half-dead primordial spirit to Ning Fan's hand. He had seen the secret technique that Ning Fan used to refine his primordial spirit. Thus, he could tell what kind of ability it was. He understood that this primordial spirit was useful to Ning Fan, but he could only give him this one. Since he had an agreement with the Divine Void Ancestor, he could not do as he pleases and go on a killing spree in this place. Ning Fan's expression seemed to be calm, but his heart was filled with astonishment. He had never expected that the last 3 levels of the Divine Tomb were actually all the burial palaces of Ancient Chaos Great Emperor. The Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's illusion could roam freely in this place and claim to be the king. As soon as he appeared, all devils would be afraid of him. With 5 swords, he killed the thought fragment expert. With just a thought, even the spirit sense of Great Emperor Shen Kong would be severely injured. Perhaps even his body would be severely injured. According to the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's illusion, everything he did was just to test me. Now it seems like he didn't lie. The last 3 levels are all his burial grounds. If he really wanted to harm me, I wouldn't have been able to escape from his hands when I stepped into the 7th level. I don't think he has the intention to harm me. Instead, he has been giving me favors repeatedly. The trace of red light in my blood just now was the opportunity that he gave me. By helping me kill this thought fragment devil lord, he was also giving me favors. Ning Fan glanced at the primordial spirit of the red-eyed elderly man, and remained silent for a while. Then, he suddenly activated the secret technique of the Spirit Blast technique, annihilating and refining his primordial spirit, and keeping it into his soul pouch. Now that he had killed another thought fragment devil, his baleful chi became even stronger. The first thought fragment primordial spirit appeared in his soul pouch. By detonating this primordial spirit with the Spirit Blast technique, it was probably enough to kill a late shedding Kong Realm old monster. Even a peak shedding Kong Realm expert would have to be wary of Ning Fan. After doing all these, Ning Fan cupped his fists and bowed to the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor. This bow finally showed that he believed what the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor said, wiping away all the grudges in his heart. Thank you, Senior, for helping me kill this demon. What are you thanking me for? Didn't you say that you've regarded me as your master because of my kindness in the past? Since you've regarded me as your master, you're naturally my disciple. In that case, how can I watch you being bullied by outsiders? If it was still in the ancient times, as long as you said that you were a disciple of the Lai Yuan sect, even an incipient saint would not dare to bully you, because you're my disciple. As he spoke, Ancient Chaos's expression was filled with a domineering aura that looked down on the world. Ning Fan had passed his test, and was grateful to him for giving him the inheritance. Such a person was qualified to be accepted as a disciple by Ancient Chaos. Disciple of the Lai Yuan sect? Ning Fan was slightly surprised. He felt very unfamiliar with this title, but he did not reject it. Without the inheritance of Ancient Chaos, he wouldn't be who he was today. As long as Ancient Chaos didn't have any intention of harming him, Ning Fan would naturally regard ancient chaos as his master due to the kindness he had shown him in the past. Yes, you are my successor, so you are naturally a disciple of the Lai Yuan sect. You must remember this. The Lai Yuan sect is an immortal sect that was founded by my master, Great Sage Lu Yuan. I'm the second sect master. Speaking of the past, ancient chaos's eyes flashed with sadness. After a moment of silence, he said to Ning Fan, "Killing Xue Daofei and eliminating an enemy for you is the first gift I'm giving you. Now, I'm going to give you the second gift. You follow me." As soon as he finished speaking, ancient chaos sent out his Dao sense and disappeared with Ning Fan. In the blink of an eye, they traversed an immeasurable distance and appeared at the end of the 9th level, the western region. In this place, there were countless powerful devil creatures lying in ambush. The first thing they saw was the Een mountain range that had the shape of a dragon. At the foot of the mountain, there was a massive formation with 12 heavenly pillars standing on it. The heavenly pillars opened up a grand golden light formation. The formation light sealed a devil well that was filled with towering black chi. Around the devil well, there were originally countless powerful devil creatures sitting cross-legged and meditating, devouring the devil chi to cultivate. Among these devil creatures, there were Duzhen, Shikong and even broken thought realm devil creatures. If they were in the outside world, all of the devil creatures here would be world-shaking figures. However, at the moment when ancient chaos's illusion brought Ning Fan to this place, all the devil creatures here were so scared that their faces turned pale. None of them had the calmness of a senior. It's ancient chaos great emperor. Wasn't he killing people from afar just now? Why did he suddenly come here? The devil chi in the well. He must have come for the devil chi again. Whoever stops him from devouring the devil chi will be killed by him. He has always been like this. It can't be. The devil chi in the well only appears once in 1,000 years. There are still 100 years before the devil chi appears again. This person shouldn't have come for the devil chi in the well. While the group of devils were still in shock and fear, ancient chaos's eyes turned cold and swept across the group of devils. With just a glance, the group of devils coughed out blood. Their eyes were filled with even more fear when they looked at ancient chaos's illusion. My disciple wants to cultivate here, and he doesn't want anyone to disturb him. All unrelated devils, retreat to 1,000,000 li away. Yes. We'll take our leave now. Sovereign Lord, please don't act recklessly here. None of the devils dared to question the order of ancient chaos's illusion. None of them were like the red-eyed old man who asked why ancient chaos would have a disciple after he had fallen for so many years. All the devils in the area, regardless of their cultivation base, frantically retreated from the place as soon as ancient chaos's illusion gave the order. When the group of devils left, those who were observant stared at Ning Fan in shock and memorized his appearance with all their might. They must remember that this person was the disciple of ancient chaos great emperor. They must never provoke him. In less than 10 breaths, all the devils had retreated to 1,000,000 li away. Ning Fan's expression gradually turned solemn as he looked at the devil well that was overflowing with devil chi in the middle of the grand ceiling formation. If he was not mistaken, this devil well should be the legendary well of contracts that connected the eastern heaven and the ancient devil's abyss. The crystal slave sent by Mo Luo, the 1,000 Leaves Mo Luo, had come to the eastern heaven from here. This contract well was personally opened by the divine void primogenitor in order to draw in the demonic energy to nourish this old man's skeleton. The world has disintegrated and the ancient devil abyss has been divided into 9 parts. This well should be connected to the 4th devil abyss. Every 1,000 years, this devil well will accumulate enough demonic energy to overflow. The last time the devil chi overflowed was 900 years ago. This well has been accumulating devil chi for 900 years. It should be enough to help you break through the bottleneck of the heavenly devil realm. This is the second gift that this old man will give you. Formation open. The illusion of ancient chaos raised his hand and pointed at the place. The light of the grand formation immediately dispersed. At the next moment, the devil chi that had been accumulating in the well for 900 years suddenly erupted at this moment. Ancient chaos clenched his 5 fingers, and the devil chi was immediately confined within 100 zhang, unable to flow out. What are you waiting for? Quickly devour it. The illusion of ancient chaos reminded him. Looking at the devil chi that was rushing towards him, Ning Fan only pondered for a moment. Then he took a step forward and entered the devil chi alone. The devil chi in this place was extremely pure. Even the void-abandoning devil beasts and sense-fragmenting devil beasts could use the devil chi in this place to cultivate. If Ning Fan devoured such pure devil chi that had been accumulating for 900 years, he would have a great chance to advance his ancient devil cultivation base and break through the bottleneck of the heavenly devil realm in one go. This was the second gift that ancient chaos gave him. Each trace of devil chi in this place was as heavy as a mountain. When the devil chi that had been accumulating for 900 years rushed towards Ning Fan, he immediately felt as if he was being suppressed by the heavens. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan activated the devil blood in his body to its limit. A strong aura of the ancestral devil immediately spread towards this place with Ning Fan as the center. When he faced the devil chi again, he no longer felt that oppressive feeling like before. Devour. Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the ground and opened his mouth to absorb the devil chi in this place. At this moment, his ancient devil cultivation base, which had already reached the peak of the Sichen realm, was forcefully breaking through the bottleneck of the next realm. The 8 heavenly Chun realm corresponded to the 8 heavenly profound ghost realm. The next ancient devil cultivation base was the 12 heavenly devil nirvana realms. It corresponded to the Duzhen, Shedding Kong and thought-breaking minor realms. To ancient devil cultivators, heavenly devils were existences which were equivalent to true immortals. As time passed, the devil chi in this place became lesser and lesser. Eventually, all of it was devoured by Ning Fan. He seemed to have turned into a statue. He sat cross-legged on the ground and breathed in and out. As time passed, the aura force of the essence chi in his body became more stable and stronger. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the 10th day, Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, the devil chi in the devil well that had been accumulating for 900 years turned into a heaven-piercing devil roar. Roared that he stood up abruptly. Countless talisman marks flowed crazily on his body. At this moment, the essence chi in his body turned into a violent storm that swept across 1 million li. At this moment, he was no longer an ancient devil at the Sichen realm. He had broken through the bottleneck and become a heavenly devil. Within 1 million li, tribulation clouds suddenly covered the sky. The shadow of a giant devil suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. That giant devil held a black lightning bolt in his hand. As soon as he appeared, he immediately struck the devil lightning at Ning Fan. The power of that devil lightning bolt was not any weaker than the green lightning bolt that Ning Fan had obtained previously. This strike was a test given by the heavens to the ancient devils. Only 1 out of 100 ancient devils would be lucky enough to withstand this lightning bolt and survive. The rest of them would die under the devil lightning. Compared to the bottleneck of the crossing truth realm, the difficulty of breaking through the bottleneck of the heavenly devil realm was much lower. However, it was much more dangerous. If one is afraid of this danger, he would not have the qualifications to become an ancient devil. Do you need me to help you block the tribulation? Great Emperor Ancient Chaos asked indifferently. No need. Ning Fan took a step forward and leaped into the sky. The blood star on his glabella shone brightly. With a wave of his hand, a gigantic lightning diagram appeared in front of him, blocking the black lightning bolt. The black lightning bolt came at him ferociously. It directly rushed into the lightning diagram and began to wreak havoc within it. Ning Fan's face immediately turned pale. Many injuries appeared on his body. However, his expression did not show any sign of fear. If he was even the slightest bit afraid of this heavenly tribulation, then he wouldn't be worthy of being called an ancient devil. Ning Fan forcefully pointed at the lightning diagram with his finger. Then he kept the lightning diagram, and the entire black lightning was forcefully absorbed into the lightning diagram. The backlash from forcefully withdrawing the black lightning was definitely not light. Immediately, as if he had suffered a heavy blow, he rapidly retreated in the sky. However, his gaze remained focused. He tapped the center of his brow. Apart from the green lightning, there was now a second bolt of black lightning. This was his other life-saving technique. You forcefully subdued the tribulation lightning of the heavenly devil tribulation. Ancient Chaos nodded with satisfaction. As his disciple, he should have the courage to forcefully restrain the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation cloud gradually disappeared, and the giant demon's shadow also disappeared bit by bit. Ning Fan consumed a pill to suppress the injuries in his body, and descended to the ground. Taking a look at his body, Zhang Xian felt that his physical body was more than twice as strong as before. A look of satisfaction immediately appeared on his face. At this moment, although his cultivation was at the mysterious ghost realm, his ancient devil cultivation was at the first nirvana of the sky devil realm. The celestial devil was at the same level as Duzhen. The first nirvana of the heavenly devil was equivalent to the initial stage of the crossing truth realm. Currently, he was no longer a junior in front of Duzhen. He could be considered as an existence at the same level as Duzhen. Senior, thank you for granting me the devil chi and helping me to break through to the heavenly devil realm. Ning Fan cupped his fists and thanked Ancient Chaos Illusion. It's just a small matter. There's no need to thank me. Next, this old man will give you the third gift. You seem to be cultivating the cultivation method of Immortal Sovereign Big Dipper. Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture? Ancient Chaos Illusion suddenly asked. Yes. Ning Fan remained silent for a while and finally admitted to Ancient Chaos. He didn't know if Ancient Chaos would be wary of this cultivation method given his identity, as someone who came from the Purple Dough Immortal Domain. However, since Ancient Chaos had no ill intentions towards him, there was no reason for him to deliberately conceal it. Don't worry. I won't ask where this cultivation method came from. You are my disciple. I will naturally trust you. You come with me. As soon as Ancient Chaos Illusion's Dao sense moved, they immediately disappeared from where they were and reappeared in a nest of devils. In the den, there was an old monster with the head of a beast and the body of a human. He was meditating with his legs crossed. Behind him, the corpses of devils were piled up like a mountain. They were the devils that he had killed in the past. His cultivation base was not considered high in the 9th level of the Divine Tomb. However, he had something that he was proud of. The grade of his luck was higher than that of ordinary Shirkong. Because of this, he always had heaven-defying luck when fighting against opponents at the same level as him. He was able to defeat those stronger than him and behead his enemies. His luck was the second color of his immortal luck. At the moment when Ancient Chaos Illusion brought Ning Fan to the den, the Shirkong devil with the head of a beast and the body of a human was immediately shocked. Without saying a word, he directly rushed out of the den. His face was filled with fear, and he cupped his fists to apologize to Ancient Chaos Illusion. Sovereign Emperor, please forgive me for not welcoming you when you came to my humble abode. You don't have to talk nonsense with me. Moye, do you still remember that you owe me your life? Of course I do. That day, there was a devil who lost control of the contract with a quasi-emperor devil, and committed a crime in the 9th level. If it wasn't for Sovereign Emperor who killed that devil, I would have died. My life was saved by Sovereign Emperor. If Sovereign Emperor needs it, you can take it away. I don't want your life. What I want is your luck. Are you willing to hand over your luck to me? The devil with the head of a beast was stunned. After a while he gritted his teeth and cupped his fists at Ancient Chaos Illusion. If Sovereign Emperor has a way to take away my luck, you can do so. However, as far as I know, there is no divine ability in this world that can take away one's luck. Is that so? You try and see if you can take away his luck. Ancient Chaos looked deeply at the devil with the head of a beast, and said to Ning Fan. The third gift he gave to Ning Fan was to help him cultivate the Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture, and cultivate his luck to an extremely high level. Chapter 832. As far as the beast-headed devil knew, there was no such thing as stealing one's fate. When he heard that the Ancient Chaos Illusion wouldn't take his life and would only seize his karmic luck, he naturally heaved a long sigh of relief in his heart. This old man has never heard of any means to seize one's luck. No matter how strong the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's divine ability is, he can only dream of seizing my luck. In the world of cultivation, the strong survived while the weak perished. Although he said that he was obedient to ancient chaos, it was not because he was indebted to ancient chaos for saving his life, but because he was afraid of ancient chaos power. His attitude towards ancient chaos was definitely not respectful at all. After hearing that ancient chaos wanted to send Ning Fan, a junior of the ghost profound realm, to seize his luck, the beast-headed devil immediately sneered in his heart. The way he looked at Ning Fan was filled with contempt. He did not believe that Ning Fan could take away his luck. Little friend, please. If you really have a divine ability to steal people's fate, then use it and let this old man widen his horizons. As long as you can do it, I'm willing to give you all of this old man's karmic luck. But can you do it? The beast-headed devil stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He squinted his eyes at Ning Fan with a hint of disdain. Naturally, he did not dare to offend the ancient chaos immortal emperor. As for Ning Fan, he did not pay much attention to him. After all, the latter was just a profound ghost realm expert. This old man's disciple is not someone you can look down on. Ancient chaos voice carried a trace of coldness into the beast-headed demon's ears. The beast-headed devil immediately shuddered. Its expression gradually turned into one of shock. This kid is actually the disciple of the ancient chaos imperial emperor. If Ning Fan really has such an identity, perhaps no devil creature in the last 3 levels of the divine tomb would dare to attack him. The third gift that the ancient chaos great emperor gave me is to help me increase my luck realm. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. In the end, he walked forward step by step. He cultivated the Big Dipper Heavenly Book, which was given to him by Shadi. Every generation of Shadi had used this cultivation method to increase their chi realm. The Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture refined the starry sky for luck. In the latter half of the Heavenly Book, there was a divine power called Big Dipper Reversal. This was a great divine ability that could seize one's luck and swallow it for one's own use. Today, Ning Fan finally had the chance to display this technique. His immortal fate was ranked first. If he could use the reverse Big Dipper technique to take away the luck of 102 colored cultivators, he would be able to cultivate the luck of the second color. When he arrived in front of the beast-headed devil, Ning Fan halted his footsteps and gently lifted his left palm. Immediately, an imprint of a purple umbrella appeared on his palm. The first color of immortal luck. It's not as powerful as my second color. The beast-headed old man didn't show any expression on his face, but he was sneering in his heart. But in the next instant, his eyes were filled with shock. All of a sudden, the umbrella imprint on Ning Fan's palm shot out 7 rays of purple light of luck into the top of his head. The moment the 7 rays of purple light entered his body, the beast-headed old man's body immediately trembled. The mysterious energy within his body was rapidly being devoured by the 7 rays of purple light. The power that was rapidly flowing away was the power of providence. His eyes lost focus for a moment as layers of illusions appeared in front of him. He seemed to be alone in a dark void, and beneath his feet was a 2-colored river of providence. In that void there were the 7 stars and the Big Dipper. All of a sudden, the light from the 7 stars reversed and condensed into a giant light ladle, scooping at the river of providence below him. Immediately, the level of his providence began to plummet. Impossible. There's actually a divine ability that can seize one's providence in this world. Instinctively, the old man wanted to activate his divine ability to resist against this divine ability that was seizing his providence. However, once he lost control of his mind and saw the illusions, he would no longer be able to resist the technique, and could only allow his providence to be seized by Ning Fan bit by bit. If Ning Fan first used this technique, he could still forcefully stop the technique by taking advantage of the difference in their cultivation base. But now it was already too late for him to resist it. His immortal luck was originally at the 2nd colored immortal luck, but now it was falling rapidly, all the way to the 1st colored immortal luck. Ning Fan stopped in time before seizing all of the old man's providence. After all, it was meaningless to continue seizing it. The purple light of the umbrella imprint on his left palm was slightly brighter than before. Reversing the Big Dipper could only increase the level of one's providence by devouring providence that was higher than one's own. This was the limitation of the Big Dipper heavenly scripture. The beast-headed old man only regained his senses when Ning Fan undid the technique. His back was already drenched in cold sweat. He was both frightened and relieved at the same time. He was frightened because Ning Fan's divine ability to seize one's providence was really heaven-defying. Fortunately, Ning Fan did not seize all of his providence. At least he left one color of the immortal providence. This young man is just a ghost profound realm expert. How could he seize my providence with that strange divine ability? What kind of divine ability is that? If I kill this young man and seize his divine ability? Just as this greedy thought emerged in the beast-headed old man's mind, he immediately extinguished it. How could he dare to attack Ning Fan and seize this heaven-defying divine ability? Ning Fan was the disciple of ancient chaos. Moyi, from today onwards, you and I don't owe each other anything. Next, ancient chaos flicked his sleeve and disappeared with Ning Fan. They went to the second devil beast's lair. It was the same as before. Ancient chaos appeared to deter the devil beasts while Ning Fan seized their providence. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, both of them walked out of the devil beast's lair and went to the next one. In just 3 days, both of them had visited more than 300 devil beasts' abodes and seized their providence. 3 days later, the shadow of the umbrella imprint on Ning Fan's left palm shone brighter and brighter. He only needed to go into seclusion once to refine all the providence that he had seized. It's about time. You have seized almost all the powerful providence in this place. You can go back to seclusion with me now. Ancient Chaos Dao Sense moved and brought Ning Fan back to the ancient chaotic tomb palace. In this tomb palace, Ning Fan went into seclusion for 10 days. During these 10 days, the strange phenomenon of the umbrella of providence appeared 3 times in the sky outside the tomb palace. The first time the umbrella of providence appeared, it was purple and blue. The second time the umbrella shadow appeared, there was an additional green providence, and it turned into 3 different colors. The third time the umbrella shadow appeared, it had 4 different colors, and there was an additional green one. Purple, blue, blue, and green. The 4 colors intertwined with each other. When the huge umbrella was opened, the power of providence was earth-shattering. After the 4-colored phenomenon disappeared, the umbrella imprint on Ning Fan's left palm also turned into 4 colors. At this moment, his providence had completely broken through. The 4th color of his immortal providence. Usually, only a small number of ancient monsters were qualified to possess 4-colored providence. Ning Fan had yet to step into the true crossing realm, but he had already cultivated such a high level of providence. Naturally, the opportunities that he would encounter in the future would far surpass those of his peers. This was the 3rd gift that ancient chaos illusion gave Ning Fan. In order to give Ning Fan this gift, ancient chaos directly went to all the devil beasts in the 9th level of the divine tomb who had powerful providence. The 300+ devil beasts could only watch Ning Fan's providence being unparalleled. They didn't have a powerful master like ancient chaos. Thank you, Senior, for helping me to improve my providence. Ning Fan dispersed the umbrella imprint and stood up. He cupped his fists and bowed respectfully towards ancient chaos illusion. Each of the 3 gifts that ancient chaos had given him was extremely precious. He couldn't treat any of them lightly. At this moment, Ning Fan found a trace of warmth from ancient chaos. The warmth that the old devil had given him before. That year, the old devil also brought him to various countries in the Rain Immortal world. He seized people's belongings and gave them to him as gifts, the same domineering and the same caring. You don't have to thank me. This is the reward that you deserve for withstanding the trial of tribulation sense. I have already given you the gifts. Now I want to have a good talk with you. I wonder what is your name? Ancient Chaos looked at Ning Fan with a smile. He had gone through too much sorrow and slept for too long. Now that Ning Fan, his successor, had arrived, he felt somewhat gratified. Ning Fan. Ning Fan raised his hand. His fingertips were filled with light, and he wrote 2 words in the air. Ning Fan? That's a good name. Ancient Chaos nodded and asked, how many void tokens did you bring with you when you entered the divine tomb? I originally had 5 tokens. Now that I have entered the palace tomb, there are only 4 left. Ning Fan answered. 4 tokens? That's a little too little. However, with my full help, it's barely enough to cultivate the first yin-yang. You will comprehend the first yin-yang cultivation method of the chaotic loop art under these bronze statues. When you cultivate the first embryonic yin-yang star, I will help you cultivate the first yin-yang in one go. As soon as he finished speaking, Ancient Chaos turned slightly and took a step forward. Immediately, the illusory body showed signs of dissipating. Senior, please wait. Ningfan suddenly opened his mouth and said, "What's the matter?" Ancient Chaos stopped the illusory body from dispersing and turned his head to ask, "Junior still has a lot of questions in my mind. I hope Senior can help me solve them. If you have any questions, feel free to ask." Ningfan's eyes swept across the 27 bronze statues with a solemn expression. "Did Senior really kill all of your relatives with your own hands?" "Yes. I can't tell you the reason for it now." Ancient Chaos's eyes were filled with remorse, and he shut his mouth in disappointment. "Is it because of the tribulation sense?" Ningfan looked at the trace of red light in his blood, and his eyes became even more solemn. The power of the red light was too terrifying. It was comparable to the power of samsara. If there were enough red light, even a saint would not be able to escape from the tribulation, and would become the slave of the tribulation sense. Ningfan firmly believed that Ancient Chaos would never do something as crazy as killing his relatives to attain the Tao with his character. Moreover, whenever Ningfan mentioned the tribulation sense, Ancient Chaos would show a look of remorse. Then the reason why he killed his relatives was probably because of the tribulation sense. The tribulation sense could completely control a person and change his nature. It was possible that Ancient Chaos had been controlled by the tribulation sense and killed all of his relatives. Or it was also possible that the ones who were controlled by the tribulation sense were his relatives who had fallen. Ancient Chaos's eyes were slightly shocked, and he looked deeply at Ningfan. "You have an extraordinary mind. You can deduce so much information from just a few words of mine. There are some things that I also want to tell you. However, I can't say it. Otherwise, the Lord of Tribulation sense will definitely sense it. I'm afraid that the 4 heavens and 9 worlds will also suffer the same fate as the Zido immortal domain. I can't say it. It's not that I'm unwilling, but I can't." Great Emperor Ancient Chaos did not dare to tell Ningfan many things, because he was afraid that the Lord of Tribulation sense would sense it. Therefore, he couldn't say it. When the 4 words Lord of Tribulation sense fell into Ningfan's ears, it was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing his body and mind to tremble. He couldn't even think of these 4 words. Just thinking about it made all the hair on Ningfan's body stand up. A great sense of crisis flowed through his body. It was as if all his Tao attainments were going to be buried in these 4 words. He couldn't even think about it, and he couldn't even mention it. Cut off the delusion quickly. Without saying a word, Ancient Chaos raised his finger and pointed at Ningfan's glabella with a solemn expression. With his current cultivation base, it was already his limit to say the 4 words Lord of Tribulation sense. As for Ningfan, he didn't even have the qualification to think about it. Chapter 833. This finger almost used up all of Ancient Chaos's cultivation in his life. He directly cut off all of Ningfan's delusion. Only now did Ningfan feel relieved. The sense of crisis that appeared out of nowhere gradually disappeared. As for Ancient Chaos, he was heavily injured by that trace of delusion. The illusion seemed to have been punched by something, becoming more illusory, and its chi was indescribably weak. Ningfan's expression was filled with astonishment. Ever since he started cultivating the Tao, he had never met anyone whose name he could not even think about or mention. In order to cut off this trace of delusion, Ancient Chaos was seriously injured. What did the Lord of Tribulation thought represent? He couldn't think about it, mention it, or even talk about it. If it wasn't for Ancient Chaos's help, the trace of delusion in Ningfan's mind was enough to kill him 1,000 times. If your cultivation base isn't strong enough, you won't be qualified to touch some of the secrets of heaven and earth. I believe you have experienced this yourself. I can't tell you too much. Some answers can only be found step by step. And from now on, you can never think about those words anymore. There is one thing you must remember: the 4 heavens and 9 worlds of the divine race, the 2 realms of awakening dream of the demon race, and the 9 abyss of the devil race are the last paradise left by the immortal emperor. They are also the last hope of the cultivators of Zido. You are lucky to be born in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds, but also unfortunate. You will comprehend the cultivation method here. Condense the embryonic star and complete the first step of this cultivation method. After the star is formed, I will help you cultivate the first yin-yang. Ancient Chaos lifted his finger to his glabella, suppressing the injuries in his body. He let out a sigh and the illusion gradually disappeared. In the huge palace tomb, there was only Ning Fan, the lights of the palace lamps and the 27 bronze statues. If my cultivation base isn't strong enough, I won't even be qualified to know some secrets. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. If he wasn't wrong, the words Lord of Tribulation thought was definitely the biggest secret in heaven and earth. With his current cultivation base, he was far from being qualified to touch this secret. What he could do was to cultivate step by step and become stronger. Only then would he be qualified to uncover this mystery. Sitting cross-legged under the bronze statue, Ning Fan adjusted his breathing and took out the jade slip of the chaotic rings art to read it carefully. Gradually, Ning Fan began to understand why the chaotic rings art was known as the strongest offensive technique among 1 billion great emperors. As a cultivator's cultivation level increased, they would be able to continuously cultivate the stars of gods, demons, and devils. The divine star was located between the eyebrows, the demon star was located in the left eye, and the devil star was located in the right eye. One could cultivate up to 9 stars at most. Ordinary cultivators could only cultivate a certain type of star, be it God star, demon star, or devil star. Practitioners of the chaos loop art needed to use the yin-yang transformation as a foundation, and simultaneously cultivate the 3 races' stars. In the end, they could cultivate 27 stars in one go. To an ordinary person, the god, demon, and demon stars were just one of the many divine abilities, and definitely not a trump card. But to the cultivators of the chaotic loop art, every god, yao, or demon star was a precious treasure. Each star was used to cultivate a type of yin and yang. 27 stars meant cultivating 27 types of yin and yang. For example, the first type of yin and yang that great Emperor Ancient Chaos cultivated was the devil carp yin yang, of the demon carp yin yang. At the moment when he cultivated the devil carp yin yang, he completely controlled the Tao law contained in the devil carp yin yang, and became a sovereign great emperor, who possessed the devil sealing Tao law. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos cultivated 27 types of yin and yang all the way. In total, he cultivated 27 types of sovereign Tao laws. He was a sovereign immortal emperor. He had a total of 27 Tao laws. Other than him, any other immortal emperor could only master 2 or 3 types of Tao laws. In this Dharma-ending era, there were only a few sovereign great emperors among the immortal emperors. Moreover, none of the sovereign great emperors had cultivated 2 types of sovereign Tao laws at the same time. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos, who possessed 27 types of sovereign Tao laws, was naturally the strongest offensive technique among 1 billion immortal emperors. If I cultivate 27 types of sovereign Tao laws and attain the immortal emperor realm, I would even have the power to fight against an ordinary incipient saint. I'm afraid I'll be invincible in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds. Only Great Emperor Ancient Chaos cultivated this chaotic loop art. And I'm the second person who cultivated it. This cultivation method is indeed powerful, but it is also extremely difficult to cultivate. The first step is to cultivate the yin-yang embryonic star. The second step is to devour the power of the Tao law and refine it into the star, turning the star into a yin-yang star. The third step is to devour the power of the Tao law and refine the yin-yang star. With the Tao comprehension of the unity of heaven and man, completing the first step is not difficult. But to complete the second step, devouring the power of the Tao law, the lowest requirement is to have the cultivation of late true crossing realm. As for the third step, I will need to go into seclusion for thousands of years and refine the yin-yang star bit by bit. Ning Fan's eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. His current cultivation base was far from the minimum requirement of cultivating this cultivation method. Late crossing true realm. He had yet to break through the Dujin realm, so it was still too early for him to cultivate the Chaos Loop Art's 27 yin-yang. Unfortunately, the difficulty of breaking through to the transcending truth realm was far greater than the difficulty of breaking through to the sky demon realm. The difficulty lay in the comprehension of the word truth. Even if Ning Fan's aptitude was high, without thousands of years of seclusion, it would be impossible for him to step into the true transcending realm. Moreover, even if Ning Fan's had advanced to the true crossing realm, he would need to cultivate to the late true crossing realm before he could complete the second step of cultivating the Chaos Loop Art. With my current cultivation base, it is indeed a little too early for me to cultivate the Chaos Loop Art, but Great Emperor Ancient Chaos only asked me to condense the embryonic star and complete the first step. As for the next two steps, he seemed to be helping me. After putting away the jade slip of the Chaos Loop Art, Ning Fan sat cross-legged at the feet of the 27 bronze statues, facing the statues motionless. He was comprehending the essence of the Chaos Loop Art. In order to condense the embryonic star, one needed to shatter the previous Fiend God star and reshape it. It was easy to shatter the star, but it was difficult to form the embryonic star. Moreover, the reshaped embryonic star must contain a trace of the cultivator's Tao intent. That Tao intent must be the deepest emotion hidden in one's heart. Just like the great Emperor Ancient Chaos who cultivated the 27 yin-yang stars, each of them contained an indelible sorrow and the longing for his loved ones. This Chaos Loop Art requires one to use emotions to form thoughts and Tao to form the star. If my heart is emotionless, I will never be able to cultivate this cultivation method. Ning Fan muttered to himself. Suddenly, he raised his head and his eyes fell on the 27 bronze statues in front of him. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos ordered me to condense the embryonic star under the bronze statues. Does he want me to use his sorrow intent to form the star? Green light flashed in his eyes. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the bronze statues and see the deep sorrow within them. He could feel the heartbreak of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos in the past. Without that deep sorrow, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos wouldn't be able to cultivate the Chaos Loop Art. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos had personally killed 27 of his closest friends and family. Every time he killed someone, there would be a trace of pain in his heart. Each of his 27 yin-yang stars contained a deep longing for his loved ones. This was a cultivation method with emotions. Only those who had emotions could cultivate it to the peak. With a thought in his mind, stars immediately appeared on his glabella, left eye and right eye. The divine star of rain, the demon star of Fuli, the devil star of mountain, the Taisu lightning star, the Emo Luo star. Touching the stars on his glabella, scenes of the past immediately appeared in his eyes. The first step of cultivating the Chaos Loop Art was to shatter the stars. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with nostalgia. Suddenly his expression froze. Then he formed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers, and circulated the qi according to the cultivation method of the Chaos Loop Art. Then he shouted coldly, "Shatter the stars." The rain star shattered. The thunder star shattered. The mountain star shattered. The Fuli star shattered. The devil Luo star shattered. The stars on his glabella, left eye and right eye were all shattered. Ning Fan immediately felt a sharp pain in his chest. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Shattering the stars meant that he had lost his ability. What followed next was to rebuild the embryonic star and cultivate the ability back. In the process of rebuilding the embryonic star, he must integrate the deepest emotions. The first star that Ning Fan needed to rebuild was the divine star of rain. I, Ning Fan, was born in the rain world. I will be a cultivator of the rain world for my entire life. The emotions contained in this divine star of rain are naturally the most complicated one. I grew up in the mortal world. This rain contains my longing for the mortal world. I was humiliated in the all-pleasure sect. This rain contains my unwillingness when I was at my weakest. In the snowy 7-apricot city, I received the warmth from Jiha and my master. I cultivated the Tao in the rain world and became a devil there. I saw all the storms in the mortal world and tasted the taste of blood rain. Of course, this rain also contains my sorrow. That sorrow is because of my rough fate. That sorrow is because my master was betrayed by his disciple. That sorrow is because of my father's memory being erased. That sorrow is because my mother has turned into a stone statue. That sorrow is because my younger brother has been reincarnated. Of course, this rain contains my longing that I will never be able to erase in my lifetime. There are too many people that I care about in this rain. There seemed to be a voice quietly rising in Ningfan's heart, and turn into fine rain that fills the sky. I have planted my roots and am willing to wait for my entire life, Ningfan muttered to himself. His emotions turned into thoughts, merged with the Tao, fused with the misty rain of the past, and entered his glabella bit by bit. In his glabella, the first embryonic star was gradually rebuilt. That was the divine star of rain. This star contained the deep affection in Ningfan's heart. With this star, he could devour the Tao law of rain and cultivate the yin-yang of rain bit by bit. It took him a total of 3 days to rebuild the divine star of rain. Moreover, Ningfan had actually placed the heaven-peaking rain ability on the rain star when he was rebuilding it this time. On the 4th day, Ningfan began to rebuild the lightning star. Half of the lightning in my heart was given to me by Hong Yi and the other half was left behind by Tai Su. Towards Hong Yi, I miss her more. As for Tai Su, I feel grateful but also guilty. If it wasn't for Tai Su, I would have most likely died in the possession of Great Emperor Mo Luo and become his slave. I have promised Lightning Emperor Tai Su that I will go to the true lightning world, which is located somewhere in the eastern heaven. I will definitely keep my promise. Traces of lightning merged with Ningfan's emotions and slowly rebuilt the brand new embryonic star of the lightning star. This process lasted for 4 days. The power of the Tai Su lightning diagram was sealed in the lightning star by Ningfan again. There were only 2 stars in his glabella. Compared to ordinary cultivators, it was a little less. However, these 2 stars had fused with all the emotions in the depths of his heart. Compared to ordinary stars, they were completely different. On the 8th day, Ningfan began to rebuild the Fuli demon star. The Fuli bloodline was formed based on his winged demon bloodline. As for the winged demon bloodline, it was the only gift that his mother left for him. My mother was a winged demon. I am naturally proud to be a winged demon. On the basis of the winged demon bloodline, I cultivated the Fuli bloodline. The Fuli clan is a taboo of heaven and earth. However, the Fuli clan had once helped me taint my own luck and saved me from the fate of being plotted against by others. Therefore, I have always felt grateful towards the Fuli clan. The Fuli clan has been annihilated for a long time. If there's a chance, I will repay this debt of blood for the Fuli clan with my identity as a member of the clan. With this, I will return the favor to the Fuli clan. The reconstruction of the Fuli demon star took 6 days. Eventually, there was only a dark purple star left in his left eye. On the 14th day, Ningfan began to rebuild the Mo Luo star. The mountain devil intent that he comprehended was based on Mo Luo. Therefore, after the reconstruction, there was only a single devil star left in his right eye. Mo Luo is this Ning's enemy. On this planet, what I sent down is my hatred. If it wasn't for the decline, I wouldn't have nearly become a devil slave. If it wasn't for Mo Luo, Lightning Emperor Tai Su wouldn't have his Tao extinguished. One day, I, Ningfan, will definitely step into the 4th devil abyss of the ancient devils. For my sake and for Lightning Emperor Tai Su, I swear to avenge all of Great Emperor Mo Luo's blood debts. 7 days later, Ningfan rebuilt the Mo Luo star with the help of his hatred. One day, this star would become an advantageous weapon for him to take revenge on Mo Luo. On the 21st day, Ningfan finally completed the reconstruction of his embryonic star. He had originally planned to use the heavenly corpse transformation technique to cultivate another corpse demon fledgling. At this moment, the voice of ancient chaos resounded in the palace tomb. For fledgling stars, I don't need so many. My remaining strength is only enough to condense a piece of fire element crystal to help you cultivate your first yin-yang star. The moment the voice fell, the illusion of the ancient chaos reappeared in the palace tomb. Compared to 21 days ago, his expression was a lot more dispirited, and his figure was very illusory, as if it could disappear at any time. In these 21 days, He had extracted most of the power from the illusion and condensed it into one object. It was a crystal that was burning with raging flames. It contained an almost boundless amount of energy. This is the fire element crystal. Besides, this fire element crystal is actually at the heaven grade. Ningfan's eyes immediately widened. The fire element crystal was a necessary item to complete the second step of cultivation of the chaotic rings art. In the chaotic rings art, there was a type of divine ability called fire element technique, which could condense the power of Tao laws into crystals. The crystals that were condensed from the power of Tao laws were called fire element crystals. Normally, they were divided into 4 grades, namely low grade, mid grade, high grade, and supreme grade. The fire element crystal that contained the Tao law of fire could only be used to cultivate yin-yang stars that were related to fire and yin-yang. The fire element crystal that contained the Tao law of lightning could only be used to cultivate yin-yang stars that were related to lightning. The 4 grades of the fire element crystal could only be used to cultivate certain types of yin-yang stars. However, it was said that there was a higher grade of fire element crystal that was classified as the heaven grade. It could be used to cultivate any type of yin-yang star regardless of attribute. Unfortunately, one could only condense it by paying a huge price. For example, the piece of fire element crystal that the ancient chaos illusion was holding was the heaven grade. It contained a terrifying power of Tao laws. If Ningfan could refine this piece of heaven grade fire element crystal, he would be able to cultivate his first yin-yang star in a single step. This was the supreme treasure that the ancient chaos illusion wanted to give to Ningfan without hesitating to damage his own illusory body and pay a huge price. Take this item. Ancient chaos flicked his finger. The heaven grade fire element crystal immediately turned into a ray of fiery light and flew towards Ningfan. Ningfan caught the fire element crystal and looked at it in his hand. His eyes were filled with astonishment. When he looked at the illusory body of the ancient chaos illusion again, his heart was filled with warmth but also a little unbearable. With Senior's weakened illusory body, condensing this piece of heaven-grade fire element crystal for me might have already damaged his foundation. Since you are my disciple, I will naturally condense a piece of heaven-grade fire element crystal for you. This is the tradition of my fire element sect. If your disciple needs it in the future, you should also sacrifice your cultivation base to condense a piece of fire element crystal for him. The eyes of the ancient chaos illusion were filled with reminiscence. That year, when he was still young, his master also sacrificed his own cultivation base to condense a heaven-grade fire element crystal for him to aid his cultivation. The fire element technique was a secret technique created by his master in the first place. It could be used to condense laws. Other than being used to cultivate the chaotic loop art, the fire element crystal naturally had other uses. Consume this crystal, and I will help you refine it. In this way, you can cultivate the first yin-yang star in an extremely short period of time. With your current cultivation base, it is impossible for you to cultivate the first yin-yang star. However, with my help, you will naturally have a way to do so. Once you succeed, you can even burst out late true crossing realm magic power with the help of the yin-yang star. You already have 4 embryonic stars now. Have you thought about which one you want to refine into the yin-yang star? The ancient chaos great emperor asked slowly. The heaven-grade fire element crystal was different from ordinary fire element crystals. It could be used to cultivate any type of yin-yang star. Since Ningfan already had 4 embryonic stars, he had 4 choices in total. His first yin-yang could be the yin-yang of rain, the yin-yang of lightning, the yin-yang of Fu Li, or the yin-yang of Mo Luo. With his current cultivation base, even if he successfully cultivates the first yin-yang star, he would still not be able to become the sovereign immortal emperor. However, he could add some power of Tao laws into his abilities, causing the power of his abilities to increase exponentially. Ningfan remained silent for a while. Then, his expression gradually became resolute. He had made up his mind. He was a cultivator of the rain world. Thus, he would use the rain as the starting point for his first yin-yang. This junior is willing to cultivate the divine star of rain into the yin-yang of rain. Because I am a cultivator of the rain world. Chapter 834. It's because I'm a cultivator of the rain world. Ning Fan said this sentence calmly and solemnly. The rain world was his hometown. He would never forget this fact no matter how high his cultivation base was. Cultivators had no home. However, Ning Fan would rather treat the rain world as his home, because there were too many people he missed there. The ancient chaos illusion nodded with a smile. He was very satisfied with Ning Fan's answer. In the era when the Purple Do immortal domain still existed, there were a billion great sovereigns in the world. There were too many cultivators with peerless talents. He had seen too many outstanding youths like Ning Fan. With the high standard of great sovereign ancient chaos, Ning Fan's talent was just passable in his eyes. What he admired more was Ning Fan's character of valuing relationships and gratitude. He also admired Ning Fan's persistence and determination in his Tao heart. Since you've made up your mind, I will naturally do my best to help you cultivate the yin-yang of rain. You come with me. The ancient chaos illusion moved his Tao sense and brought Ning Fan away from the tomb palace again. This time, it brought Ning Fan to a place where it was raining continuously. Between the mountains and rivers stood a tomb palace that was filled with dense rain intent. You've completed the first step, which is to reconstruct the infant rain star. Next, you need to complete the second step, which is to devour the fierce primordial crystal and refine the power of the Tao law within it. The Tao law of the heaven-grade fierce primordial crystal has no attribute. You need to cultivate the corresponding cultivation method in order to transform the non-attribute Tao law into the Tao law of rain and cultivate the yin-yang of rain. The rain star is a divine star, and the cultivation method must be the divine race's cultivation method. You don't seem to have cultivated any rain Tao immemorial divine technique that is above the 7 stars? The ancient chaos illusion asked. No. Ning Fan shook his head. He had comprehended the rain intent and cultivated the heavenly peering rain technique. However, he had never cultivated any cultivation method that was related to rain. He had never obtained any rain Tao immemorial divine technique that was above the 7 stars. As expected. That's why I brought you here. I'm not proficient in the Tao of rain when I was alive. Although there are a few rain cultivation methods in my memory, the highest one is only at the 6 stars or 7 stars. Fortunately, this place was the divine tomb. The divine void primogenitor had collected the inheritances of many powerhouses and left them here. This tomb palace contained a 9-star immemorial divine art, inky rain scripture. The cultivator who created this technique was said to be from the same sect as the rain world's rain ancestor. The rain ancestor's rain focuses on perception, while this person's rain focuses on killing. With your current cultivation, the chances of you challenging the Ink Rain Tomb Palace is close to 0. But if you have my assistance from the side, then with your current strength, you have quite a good chance of passing through this tomb palace. As soon as Luan Gu finished speaking, he took a step forward and suddenly raised his palm. His 5 fingers were like the sky as he slapped down towards the Ink Rain Tomb Palace. The might of this palm was enough to shake the heavens and earth. When it landed on the Ink Rain Tomb Palace, it immediately caused 90% of the rain to collapse. Ancient chaos did not destroy the last 10% of the rain intent. If it did, the tomb would fall into a dormant state forever. Alright, go on. Break through this tomb and bring back the inky rain scripture. Ancient Chaos said with a smile. He used his great ability to suppress the cultivation base of the Tomb Master's illusion, giving Ning Fan a chance to break through this tomb. Other than the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor, only the 2 Divine Void Emperors of each generation had a way to suppress the tomb, allowing the juniors to obtain the inheritance within. Ning Fan stared at the Ink Rain Tomb Palace in front of him. After pondering for a moment, he finally took out a void token, opened the door of the tomb and stepped into it. In order to cultivate the yin-yang rain technique, one must at least cultivate a profound rain technique. It would be best if he could obtain the 9-star inky rain scripture. The cultivation base of the Ink Rain Tomb Palace was the second tribulation of the Eternal Era. The cultivation base of the illusion of the Tomb Master had already reached the second tribulation of the Eternal Era. However, under the suppression of the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor, the cultivation base of the illusion was only equivalent to the early True Crossing realm. What entered Ning Fan's sight was a vast land of black soil. The ground was filled with dried bones and desolate tombs. Among the countless desolate tombs, there was an old man in black armor sitting cross-legged on the largest mound. This old man in black armor was the illusion of the tomb master, Great Emperor Mou. Currently, his cultivation base was being suppressed, causing him to only show an early true crossing realm cultivation base. Even though he was only an early true crossing realm cultivator, the strength of his chi was already comparable to a mid-true crossing realm cultivator. This person was once a great emperor when he was alive. Even if his cultivation base was only at the early true crossing realm, he still had the strength to fight against a mid-true crossing realm cultivator. Intruder kill. The eyes of the old man in black armor were hollow. He did not have as much spiritual intelligence as the ancient chaos great emperor. He let out a cold snort. As soon as the inky rain intent dispersed, tens of thousands of giant ink bone beasts broke out from the countless desolate tombs and charged towards Ning Fan. The cultivation bases of these giant ink bone beasts varied. Some of them were at the vein opening realm, while some were at the profound ghost realm. As for the old man in black armor, he gave Ning Fan a disdainful glance. Then he closed his eyes and continued to sit cross-legged. He did not attack Ning Fan. From his point of view, it seemed like he could kill Ning Fan countless times with just his tens of thousands of giant beasts. Giant beasts condense from the rain intent, huh? Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. A powerful aura of the first nirvana of the heavenly devil realm gushed out from his body. He stomped on the ground with the tip of his feet. Immediately, his body turned into countless residual shadows. Like a cannonball, he dashed into the encirclement of the giant beasts. With the strength of Ning Fan's heavenly devil physical body, he could almost ignore the attacks of these giant beasts. The momentum of his impact was like a falling star. There was no giant beast that could stop him at all. Even if it was the giant inkbone beasts at the profound ghost realm or human realm, their skeletal bodies would all be destroyed after Ning Fan collided with them. Those giant beasts with lower cultivation bases could not withstand Ning Fan's impact at all. Ning Fan did not have the leisure to care about these giant beasts at all. His eyes were fixed on the old man in black armor from the beginning to the end. This old man in black armor was a great emperor when he was still alive. His emperor title was Mou. His combat power might be far inferior to Mo Zhong, Ancient Chaos and the other great emperors, but he was definitely not weak. Being able to exchange blows with the illusory image of a great emperor at the true enlightenment realm was a great opportunity in itself. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with battle intent. He dashed out of the encirclement of the giant beasts and headed straight for the old man in black armor. Among the tens of thousands of giant beasts, almost 1/3 of them were directly killed by Ning Fan. You overestimate yourself. The old man in black armor harumphed coldly. He suddenly rose to his feet and stood on the mound. His eyes flashed and the tens of thousands of giant beasts immediately turned into black shadows and dispersed. He raised his withered palm and clawed at Ning Fan from afar with all 5 of his fingers. Between heaven and earth, a pitch-black rainstorm that was as dark as ink suddenly poured down. Endless rain intent condensed into a 100 jong large black ghost claw amidst the rainstorm. Then it clawed at Ning Fan. This ghost claw glowed with a strange luster. There were even mysterious runes flowing on its surface. The strength of this claw was actually several times stronger than the attack of an ordinary mid-true enlightenment realm cultivator. That ghost claw seemed to be extremely far away. However, in just a flash, it had already arrived at Ning Fan's body. Its speed was too fast. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He immediately stopped moving forward and landed on the ground. Then he raised his hand and threw a heavy punch at the ghost's claw. The old man in black armor, on the other hand, smiled coldly and uttered a word softly. Devour. Ning Fan's expression changed. He knew that this ghost's claw was a trick. He wanted to withdraw his fist, but it was already too late. He had used all of his essence chi and magic power in this punch. The strength of this punch had already reached the might of a mid-true enlightenment realm cultivator. As soon as he threw out his punch, the 100 jong large ghost claw immediately trembled violently and shattered into countless black shadows. Under the tremendous counterforce, Ningfan's knuckles felt like they were about to crack. He took a few steps back before he could stabilize his body. Every time he took a step back, his essence chi and magic power would decrease by a lot. They evaporated like the mist in the rain. This ghost claw was not only powerful, but it also had the strange ability to devour people's magic power, as expected of a former great sovereign. Even if there's only an early true enlightenment realm illusion left, it's still not something that I can easily defeat. Devour. Ningfan opened his mouth and swallowed. The black shadow of the ghost's claw was immediately swallowed into his stomach. With the strength of the great five elements physique, the magic power that he had lost was immediately replenished by refining the black shadow of the ghost's claw. Great five elements physique. At this moment, the old man in black armor revealed a trace of seriousness. Although his ghost claw could devour other people's magic power, it would not have any advantage against the great five elements physique. That ghost claw was after all a divine ability of the Tao of Rain. It was difficult for him to suppress Ningfan with the rain technique, since he was in the five elements physique. He raised his hand, and a short black dagger axe appeared in his hand. It was his Tao weapon. He finally looked at Ningfan seriously. He was going to fight Ningfan with all his strength in this tomb palace. Ningfan took a deep breath. His eyes were suddenly burning with the flames of battle intent. His white robes turned blood red. His black hair turned blood red too. After displaying the secret technique of the first transformation of the war god, his ancient devil cultivation base had almost reached the peak of the first nirvana of the heavenly devil realm. The higher the realm of one's physical body, the smaller the amplification of the war god art. One would need to cultivate the secret technique of a higher realm in order to obtain a greater amplification. Even so, after displaying the first transformation of the war god, his chi was already slightly stronger than the old man in black armor. Kill. The old man in black armor shouted coldly. He turned into a black shadow and dashed towards Ningfan. As for Ningfan, he also dashed forward to face him. After all, this old man was not a peerless great sovereign like immortal Emperor Mo Zhong. If he was at the same level as Ningfan, Ningfan firmly believed that he would not lose. A great battle was about to break out. 2 hours later, Ningfan's white robes were stained with blood. He held a black crystal in his hand and stood alone on the vast ruins. In the end, he defeated the old man in black armor. However, the battle was also a bitter one. This black crystal was the reward he obtained from the battle, the inheritance crystal of the 9 stars immemorial divine art. Mo Rain Scripture. After clearing this tomb palace, his grave merit points did not increase at all. This was because Ningfan had borrowed the power of the ancient chaos great emperor to suppress the tomb. He had used a trick to break through the tomb. Fortunately, Ningfan did not care whether he could obtain grave merit points from clearing this tomb or not. What he cared about was the Mo Rain Scripture. Ningfan closed his eyes and sent his spirit sense into the crystal. Immediately, the information of the cultivation method was deeply imprinted in his sea of consciousness. The biggest advantage of the inheritance crystal was that it could directly transmit the comprehension of the cultivation method to the descendants. After a long time, the light from the crystal faded away. With a cracking sound, it broke into 2 halves. Then it lost all of its spiritual nature and turned into ashes bit by bit. Ningfan opened his eyes at the right time and revealed a satisfied smile. With the help of this inheritance crystal, Ningfan obtained the complete cultivation method of the Mo Rain Scripture and absorbed many of great Emperor Mo's comprehensions. Even if he had not cultivated it yet, his comprehension of this cultivation method had already reached an extremely high level. If he had the help of great Emperor Ancient Chaos now, he would be able to borrow the power of the Mo Rain Scripture to refine the power of the Tao Law within the fierce primordial crystal and cultivate the yin and yang of rain. Moreover, he even learned the Devil Claw sacrificial Devil Claw, which great Emperor Mo was proud of. This technique used the Mo Rain Scripture as its foundation. It could devour the magic power of others. It was considered a powerful technique. Even though it could not be used as a trump card, it could still be used as a relatively powerful technique. There was no point in staying here any longer. Ningfan's figure flashed and left the tomb palace, returning to the outside world. With his departure, the Ink Rain Tomb Palace quietly fell into silence. Seeing that Ning Fan had successfully obtained the inheritance of the Mo Rain scripture, the ancient Chaos Illusion nodded in satisfaction. With a thought, he directly brought Ning Fan back to the bronze statue. After Ning Fan finished healing his injuries, the ancient Chaos Illusion finally showed a serious expression. He asked Ning Fan to sit down cross-legged while holding the fierce primordial crystal. He would personally help Ning Fan refine the crystal. With your current cultivation base, it's still a little too early for you to devour the power of the Tao Law. Even with my help, I'm afraid there will still be a lot of danger. If you can't bear it, just tell me and I will stop immediately. The ancient Chaos Illusion stood behind Ning Fan and placed his palm on the top of Ning Fan's head. His eyes flashed with golden light, and his white hair fluttered without any wind. Immediately, a wave of aura force that was not weaker than heaven and earth directly pressed down on Ning Fan's body. Ning Fan's body trembled. Under this aura force, he felt as if he was being pressed down by countless mountains. Fortunately, the ancient Chaos Illusion did not have any evil intentions. Even though this aura force had suppressed him, it did not cause him any harm. Then, the magic power of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos flowed into his body, protecting all of his immortal veins and primordial spirit. Close your primordial spirit and calm your mind. Refine the fierce primordial crystal. The ancient Chaos Illusion instructed in a deep voice. As time passed, his body became more and more illusory. He was first injured by the Lord of Tribulation Intense Delusion. Then he sacrificed his cultivation base to condense a heaven-grade fierce primordial crystal. His illusory body was already extremely weak. Now, in order to help Ning Fan refine the fierce primordial crystal, he consumed a large amount of magic power. His illusory body was almost on the verge of collapse. He could only help Ning Fan refine the crystal once at most. If he stops halfway, he would no longer have any extra power to help Ning Fan. The ancient Chaos Illusion did not tell Ning Fan about this, but Ning Fan still noticed it. In order to help me in my cultivation, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos illusory body has already become so weak. Ning Fan felt a warm current flowing through his heart. His eyes were filled with determination. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos had already done his best to help him in his cultivation. If he still could not cultivate the first yin-yang in the end, wouldn't he be letting Great Emperor Ancient Chaos down? Holding the fierce primordial crystal with both of his palms, Ning Fan closed his eyes and silently circulated the cultivation method of the Ink Rain scripture. He absorbed the power of the Tao Law within the fierce primordial crystal and refined it into the divine rain star. In the past, Ning Fan had also tried devouring the power of the Tao Law. At that time, he tried to devour the Tao Law of the Void. However, he failed in the end. It was not only because his cultivation base was insufficient, but also because he had never cultivated any profound Tao of Void cultivation method. This time, however, his devouring of the power of the Tao Law went very smoothly. Firstly, it was because he had obtained the inheritance of the Ink Rain scripture. Secondly, it was because Ancient Chaos was helping him from the side. Tens of thousands of traces of rain intent flowed within his body. Ning Fan was clearly sitting on the spot, but his mind felt like it was in a world that was covered with drizzling rain. He had an illusion that his body had turned into a drop of rain that gradually flew into the sky and rose into the clouds, becoming very light. It was a mysterious feeling that was indescribable and indescribable. At the moment when this feeling was born, Ning Fan felt like he could grasp all the veins of the Tao Law of rain in the world. When he really wanted to grasp it, he realized that he could not do it at all. This mysterious state continued. It felt like it was within his reach, but it also felt like it was thousands of li away from him. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. In the blink of an eye, 1 year had passed. During this 1 year, Ning Fan had not moved a single bit. With the help of Ancient Chaos Great Emperor, he had already absorbed all the power of the Tao Law within the fierce primordial crystal. At this moment, the infant star of rain on Ning Fan's glabella had been refined into a yin-yang divine star bit by bit. The yin-yang devil body of the chaotic rings, art was divided into 27 layers of yin-yang. This was the first layer, but it had yet to be completed. The first step of the cultivation of the chaotic rings art required him to break the stars and condense them into stars. Ning Fan had completed this step alone. The second step required him to devour the power of the Tao Law and refine it into the stars. He had also completed this step with the help of ancient Chaos Great Emperor. As for the third step, he would need to go into seclusion for a long period of time to refine the yin and yang on his own. Finally, he would be able to integrate the power of the yin-yang divine star into his own body and transform it into his own magical power. Once the third step was completed, the cultivator of the chaotic rings art would receive a great increase in his cultivation base. At the same time, he would be able to completely control the power of the Tao Law in the yin-yang divine star. This step could not be completed without going into seclusion for a long period of time. Without a late true crossing realm cultivation base, even with the help of ancient Chaos Great Emperor, he would not be able to complete this step. Currently, Ning Fan was still unable to complete this step. His yin-yang divine star was considered to be at the initial stage, but it was sealed by ancient Chaos Great Emperor. It's almost done. I can only help you cultivate the first yin-yang divine star. As for completely controlling the power of this yin-yang divine star, you will have to wait until you break through to the late true crossing realm before you can do it. I have temporarily sealed this yin-yang divine star of yours. What is sealed in this yin-yang divine star is all the power of the yin-yang divine star. After you break through to the late true crossing realm, you can complete the third step on your own. That is to completely integrate the yin-yang divine star into your body and transform it into magical power. Once you complete this step, your cultivation base will certainly be greatly improved. Perhaps, you can even step into the peak of the true crossing realm. Currently, your cultivation base is still not enough to complete the third step. However, if you want to use the power of the yin-yang divine star, you only need to slightly undo the seal of the yin-yang divine star, and you will be able to exert an extremely powerful strength. Ancient Chaos Great Emperor withdrew his palm and looked at Ning Fan with a smile. For a whole year, he had done his best to help Ning Fan refine the fierce elemental crystal. His illusory body was already on the verge of collapse. However, his eyes were filled with gratification. He was gratified that Ning Fan had finally succeeded in cultivating the first yin-yang divine star with his help. Ning Fan stood up, stretched out his hand and gently touched the first yin-yang divine star on his glabella, the yin-yang divine star. This star was currently in a sealed state, and had yet to be undone. In this yin-yang divine star there was an almost terrifying power. Try to undo the seal and feel the power of the yin-yang divine star. After listening to ancient Chaos Great Emperor's words, Ning Fan immediately took a deep breath and his eyes turned solemn. After a moment, his 10 fingers pinched an ancient and abstruse finger seal and suddenly shouted coldly, "Yin-yang divine star, unseal." As he performed the finger seal, the seal on the yin-yang divine star on his glabella immediately loosened. Ning Fan's current cultivation base was originally at the peak of the Ghost Profound Realm. However, the moment the seal was undone, a vast amount of magic power flowed out from the yin-yang divine star and spread to his entire body. An extremely strong aura force immediately burst out from his body. His aura continued to rise, as if he was using a secret technique, rising all the way. Early Truth Crossing Realm, Mid Truth Crossing Realm, Late Truth Crossing Realm. After unsealing the power of the yin-yang divine star, Ning Fan's cultivation base actually rose all the way from the peak of the Ghost Profound Realm to the Late Truth Crossing Realm. When he was at the peak of the Ghost Profound Realm, his magic power had already reached the peak of the Early Truth Crossing Realm. Now that his cultivation base had reached the Late Truth Crossing Realm, his magic power was almost on par with the peak of the True Crossing Realm. This meant that as long as Ning Fan unsealed the power of the yin-yang divine star, his strength would be invincible among the Late Truth Crossing Realm cultivators. He could even slightly compete with the peak of the True Crossing Realm. Unfortunately, this kind of increase in power was only temporary. It was only equivalent to a secret technique. Moreover, this kind of secret technique would cause a very serious burden to the body. In just 10 breaths of time, his primordial spirit began to show signs of injuries. As time passed, his injuries showed signs of worsening. The reason why these injuries appeared was because his primordial spirit was still unable to withstand such a powerful force. According to Ning Fan's estimation, with his current cultivation base, he would suffer severe injuries from the backlash if he used the power of the yin-yang rain for more than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. If the seal was lifted for more than 2 hours, his essence spirit would be destroyed and he would die a violent death. If he wanted to control the power of the yin-yang rain as he pleased, he would have to complete the third step of cultivation. Before this, he couldn't release the yin-yang seal for more than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Moreover, he had to heal himself immediately after the process. Of course, every time he unsealed the yin and yang power of the rain, it would cause his cultivation to soar to the late stage of the true crossing realm. Although he couldn't unseal it for too long, many things could be done within the time it took for an incense stick to burn. With a thought, Ning Fan's late true crossing realm immediately dropped to the peak spirit profound realm. The rain yin-yang divine star was sealed again. The minor injuries on his body were also quickly healed by Black Star's power. Although the power of the yin-yang rain couldn't be used for a long time, it could still be used as a trump card to achieve unexpected results. Ever since he entered the ancient chaotic tomb palace, the ancient chaos illusion had been giving Ning Fan many opportunities. Now, the ancient chaos illusion didn't hesitate to damage his own cultivation base in order to help Ning Fan attain the first yin-yang. Ning Fan was grateful for all of these, but he felt even more ashamed. Given Ning Fan's personality, he would never accept someone's kindness for no reason. If others made him an enemy, he would certainly take revenge for the smallest grievance and return it tenfold. Similarly, if others helped him, he would certainly remember it in his heart and return it tenfold. After pondering for a moment, Ning Fan suddenly cupped his fists towards the ancient chaos illusion and said in a serious tone, "I wonder if Senior has any unfulfilled wish that needs Junior to help you fulfill? If there is, Junior will certainly do his best to fulfill it." In Ning Fan's point of view, the ancient chaos great emperor had fallen for many years. Perhaps there were still some unfulfilled regrets in his heart. If Ning Fan really needed his help, he would certainly do something for the ancient chaos great emperor to repay his kindness today. After hearing Ning Fan's words, the ancient chaos illusion was startled at first. Then the gratification in his eyes became even more intense. He murmured to himself, "What a grateful little guy." He could naturally see through Ning Fan's thoughts. He pondered for a moment and realized that he really had an unfulfilled wish since he fell. After pondering for a moment, the ancient chaos illusion suddenly raised his hand. A light flashed in his palm, and an item immediately appeared. Looking at this item, ancient chaos illusion was sometimes sad and sometimes regretful, but in the end, he revealed a nostalgic expression. It was a jade lock. It looked exactly the same as the yin-yang locket, and its chi was also almost the same. The moment the lock appeared, the yin-yang locket in Ning Fan's dantian trembled slightly. "This is the yin-yang locket. The other yin-yang locket." Ning Fan's eyes were shocked. The ancient chaos great emperor's yin-yang locket wasn't just one, but two. "Take this locket. This is this old man's last wish." The ancient chaos illusion raised his hand, and the jade locket in his palm immediately turned into a gentle light and flew towards Ning Fan. Chapter 835. The jade locket turned into a gentle light and entered Ning Fan's dantian in a flash. At this moment, the other yin-yang locket in his dantian also started to emit a faint light. The lights of the two jade locks intertwined with each other and suddenly collided with each other, gradually fusing into one. At this moment, the incomplete laws of the profound yin world started to be mended in a frenzy. Next to the steel of sun and moon, countless snowflakes suddenly drifted down, gradually forming a giant ice steel that was as tall as the steel of sun and moon. This ice steel was actually a connate magical treasure. The instant the giant ice steel was completely formed, the yin and yang spirits on the steel of sun and moon were also slowly replenished. The 7 yin and 7 yang slots were gradually filled with the power of yin and yang. After the steel of sun and moon was repaired, the aura of the steel of sun and moon became stronger and stronger. It surpassed the level of a 12 nirvana acquired heaven celestial artifact, and entered the level of a connate celestial artifact. Double monument suppressing the world. Inside the palace grave, ancient chaos suddenly shouted in a deep voice. The two giant monuments of fire and ice immediately soared into the sky and hovered in the sky of the profound Een world, one in the west and the other in the east. At this moment, the territory of the profound Een world started to extend into the distance. It had expanded by more than 10 times, and the boundary barrier had become abnormally sturdy. The entire profound Een world was divided into two. It was actually divided into the east and the west realms, and there was no passage between them. Although it was still a dimensional realm, it was much higher level than an ordinary dimensional realm. A 10-story pagoda slowly appeared in the sky. The words "Hidden Immortal" were written on the pagoda. Ning Fan scanned the pagoda with his spirit sense, and it immediately shook. In this pagoda, there were countless primordial godfiend cultivation techniques. From the 1st to the 9th floor, there were godfiend cultivation techniques from 1 star to 9 star. The first 7 floors contained a total of hundreds of thousands of godfiend cultivation technique jade slips. On the 8th floor, there were only over 300 8-star cultivation technique jade slips. On the 9th floor, there were only 30-odd 9-star cultivation technique jade slips. However, what Ning Fan was concerned about was the fact that the 10th floor of the pagoda was tightly sealed. He did not know what exactly was inside it. The seal was so strong that it was not something that Ning Fan could open even a little bit with his current strength. According to his estimation, it would be impossible for him to open the 10th floor of the pagoda without a cultivation base of the eternal ancient realm. Originally, there were 2 Yin-Yang lockets. The one you used to have was the Yang locket. Now this old man is giving you the Yin locket. With the 2 lockets combined into one, you will be able to maintain the cultivation speed of the profound Een world, even if you don't enter the profound Een world. However, this cultivation speed will disappear after you enter the time acceleration realm. I've already completed the Steel of Sun and Moon for you, and I've also given you the Steel of Star. Both of them are innate magical treasures. With your current cultivation base, you're still unable to unleash their full power, so they're useless for the time being. However, these 2 steels contain one of my 3 great divine abilities, the Dao seizing technique from the void. When the Steel of Sun and Moon plucked a woman, it could take away all of her divine abilities. When the Steel of Star refined a man's primordial spirit, it could take away all of his cultivation techniques. It's all because of the existence of the Dao seizing technique from the void. This technique can't be passed down by word of mouth. However, if you have enough talent, you'll be able to comprehend this technique from the 2 steels sooner or later. Other than that, I've also given you a hidden immortal pagoda. The first 9 floors of the pagoda contain more than 700,000 books of fiend god cultivation techniques that I've obtained throughout my life. In the future, you might need it when you cultivate the other Yin and Yang techniques. A key is sealed in the 10th floor of the hidden immortal pagoda. You don't need to know what kind of key it is now. In the future, when your cultivation base is strong enough, I'll naturally tell you how to use this key. This old man's last wish is this key. Now that it's in your hands, this old man can finally die in peace. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos's words pulled Ning Fan's mind back from the profound Een world. Upon hearing this, Ning Fan sighed softly. His original intention was to do something for Great Emperor Ancient Chaos to repay his kindness. However, he did not expect to receive another gift from Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. With the completion of the Yin Yang locket, Ning Fan had obtained great benefits. Even if he did not enter the profound Een world, his cultivation speed would still increase by a few hundred times. The appearance of the hidden immortal pavilion had given him more than 700,000 books of fiend god cultivation techniques. The value of these cultivation techniques was immeasurable. It was enough to make any force in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds envious. After all, it was Ancient Chaos who had been giving him opportunities. As his cultivation base was too low, he could not do anything for Ancient Chaos at all. I can sense an extremely pure power of the Tao of Void from your body. Besides, this qi is a little familiar. It's very similar to the qi of the Eastern demon ancestor. Ancient Chaos suddenly changed the topic with a question. The Eastern demon ancestor that he mentioned was the ancestral emperor of the Eastern Heaven. He was also the person that countless demon races regarded as their ancestor. As soon as Ning Fan heard Ancient Chaos's question, he immediately took out the Eastern Ocean Bell from the profound Yin world. With just a glance at the Eastern Ocean Bell, Ancient Chaos could tell that the bell contained an extremely massive power of the Tao of Void. His eyes lit up at first and then he sighed in disappointment. It really is the chi of the Eastern demon ancestor. Where did you get this power of the Tao of Void from? The heaven-suppressing bell. Ning Fan answered without hiding anything. The heaven-suppressing bell, huh? That's the relic of the Eastern demon ancestor. There's another key hidden within it. Every great emperor divine void in the past wanted to obtain that key. Unfortunately, it's too difficult for them to obtain the key with their cultivation base. Holding the bell sacrifice ceremony is just a useless act. Only saints can take out that key. Upon hearing this, Ning Fan's eyes immediately changed. It was his first time hearing that the secret hidden within the heaven-suppressing bell was a key. The reason why the Godly Void Pavilion held the bell sacrifice ceremony continuously was to take out this key. As for what the key was, Ancient Chaos did not intend to tell Ning Fan. However, it did not stop Ning Fan from guessing. There was a key hidden within the Yin-Yang locket and the heaven-suppressing bell. Needless to say, the key must be related to a great secret of the entire heaven and earth. On the 9th floor of the Hidden Immortal Pavilion, there are 2 cultivation methods that the Divine Void Ancestor gave me. Divine Space Scripture and Void Scripture. Since you possess such a pure Tao Law of Void, you can cultivate the Void Scripture on your own in the future, and use this cultivation method to refine the Tao Law and cultivate the Void Yin and Yang. Ancient Chaos said. There's actually the highest cultivation method of the Godly Void Pavilion in the Hidden Immortal Pavilion? Ning Fan was astonished. These 2 cultivation methods were given to me by the Divine Void Primogenitor. What this old man gave her in return was the Void Seizing Tao technique. Thus, the Divine Void Pavilion also has an incomplete version of this old man's Void Seizing Tao technique. Every generation of the Divine Void Emperors would study this technique, but only a few succeeded. I see. Ning Fan nodded his head and suddenly thought of Sun Luo. Sun Luo also knew the Void Tao seizing technique. He should be one of the few people in the history of the Godly Void Pavilion who succeeded in learning this technique. The essence of the Void Tao seizing technique is hidden within the world-suppressing twin monuments. You can comprehend it yourself when you have time in the future. As for the 5 yin-yang swords, I have already demonstrated it to you before. Now, I will completely impart this technique to you. As soon as he finished speaking, Ancient Chaos lifted his finger and touched the top of Ning Fan's head. Immediately, a mountainous amount of information was transmitted into Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. These information not only contain the complete sword technique of the 5 yin-yang swords, but also all of Ancient Chaos' comprehension towards this technique. After a long time, Ancient Chaos withdrew his hand, leaving Ning Fan standing alone on the same spot with shock in his eyes. Previously, when he saw the Ancient Chaos sword slashing the red-eyed old man, Ning Fan did not think that the 5 yin-yang swords was that terrifying. After all, Ancient Chaos's cultivation realm was far higher than the red-eyed old man. Any one of his techniques had the power to kill the red-eyed old man. Now that he had received the complete sword technique of the 5 yin-yang swords, Ning Fan finally knew how terrifying this technique was. The 5 yin-yang swords were divided into heaven, earth, human, divine, and ghost swords. The heaven sword severs fate, the earth sword severs force, the human sword severs life, the divine sword severs Tao, the ghost sword severs thoughts. When the 5 swords combine into one, it could break all the fate, force, Tao and thoughts of cultivators at the same level as it. With this technique, Ancient Chaos Great Emperor conquered the world. He rarely lost to anyone at the same level as him. The chaotic heavenly finger is a finger light that was produced by fusing all the Tao laws of the 27 yin and yang. This technique has been recorded in the chaotic loop art. You will be able to use this technique when your yin and yang are complete in the future. If that's the case, I will pass all 3 of my great techniques to you. My illusory body is unstable. I have to fall into a deep sleep immediately. It might be 100 years or 1,000 years. Do you have anything else to tell me? Ancient Chaos' illusory body was on the verge of collapsing, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. Junior still has 2 requests. I hope Senior can agree to them. Ning Fan lowered his head in a slightly regretful manner. If it wasn't because of the importance of these 2 requests, he wouldn't be so thick-skinned to ask for more after receiving so many benefits from Ancient Chaos. Hehe, what request do you have? Just say it. Ancient Chaos smiled disapprovingly. Junior's first request is related to the Well of Contracts. To be honest, Junior and the devil ancestor of the 4th Devil Abyss are sworn enemies. This Well of Contracts happens to be connected to the 4th Devil Abyss. Some time ago, the devil ancestor of the 4th Devil Abyss, Great Emperor Mo Luo, sent his subordinate crystal slaves to the Eastern Heaven Immortal World through the Well of Contracts, intending to hunt me down. Ning Fan simplified the details and told Ancient Chaos Great Emperor about what happened that day. As soon as Ancient Chaos Great Emperor heard that Great Emperor Mo Luo actually dared to send people to hunt Ning Fan down, his eyes immediately flashed with killing intent. A mere devil ancestor of the last generation actually dared to repeatedly have the intention to kill his disciple. He was really courting death. The Well of Contracts, huh? Don't worry. From today onwards, no crystal slaves will come to trouble you through the Well of Contracts. No one knew that Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's words had directly swept away most of the murderous tribulations that came from Great Emperor Mo Luo. Many years later, Great Emperor Mo Luo paid a huge price to send the crystal slaves to the Divine Tomb by force. As for Ancient Chaos Great Emperor, he killed the crystal slaves again and again, not giving them any chance to hunt Ning Fan down. That was a story to be told in the future. Very soon, Ning Fan made a second request to Ancient Chaos Great Emperor. This request directly made Ancient Chaos Great Emperor let out a long sigh. There was once a woman who had never received any affection from him. However, she did everything she could to build a huge tomb for him, waiting for him to wake up. In Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's mind, he gradually recalled the words of love and hate that the Divine Void Ancestor had said before he passed away. Ancient Chaos Great Emperor, remember this. The reason why I built the Divine Tomb for you and kept your corpse for you is not because I love you. On the contrary, I don't love you. I don't love you at all. I hate you. I hate your coldness. I hate you for never giving me any affection. I will let the illusion of your tomb see with your own eyes that one day, the successor of Ancient Chaos Great Emperor will finally bow down to me, the successor of the Divine Void Ancestor. On that day, you will know that your successor has better foresight than you. It will be 100 times, 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times better. Ancient Chaos Great Emperor closed his eyes and let out a bitter and guilty smile. All right. Since you have decided to help the successor of the Divine Void Ancestor, I will help you. Your foresight is indeed much better than mine. Take this item. If there is anyone in the Divine Void Pavilion who dares to stop you at that time, just show this item to the 2 emperors of this generation. Eventually, Ancient Chaos Great Emperor dispersed his illusory body and went into a deep sleep in the Tomb Palace to recover the power of his illusory body. Of course, if he wanted to, he could leave the Tomb Palace at any time even if his illusory body was on the verge of collapsing, and easily wipe out all the devil creatures in this place. The chaotic ancient Tomb Palace fell into a state of silence. Ning Fan cultivated alone in the eastern region, waiting for the day of the tomb competition. No devil creature dared to step into the eastern region. Even if there were, none of them would dare to do anything to Ning Fan. Among the high-grade devil creatures in this place, which one of them did not know that Ning Fan was Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's disciple? None of them dared to hurt him. Ning Fan opened up a cave residence near the chaotic ancient Tomb Palace and cultivated there. This time, he had gained a lot from searching for the inheritance of Ancient Chaos Great Emperor. The incomplete Tao law of the profound Yin world was repaired. If Ning Fan was willing, not only him but also the women in the cauldron ring could be brought into the profound Yin world. He obtained the chaotic ring's art, the hidden immortal pavilion, and the opportunity to cultivate the three great abilities of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor. His ancient devil cultivation base broke through the first nirvana of the heavenly devil realm. His luck broke through to the fourth color of the immortal cloud. Moreover, with the help of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor, he cultivated the yin-yang rain technique. Now Ning Fan had absolute confidence to participate in the tomb competition again. As far as he knew, the highest cultivation base in this tomb competition was only at the mid-crossing truth realm. With his current strength, it was definitely not difficult for him to obtain the first place. With my strength, it won't be difficult for me to obtain the first place. After that, I can ask the Divine Void Pavilion for Asi's freedom. There's still about half a year before the tomb competition. Half a year is too short. It's not enough for me to improve my cultivation base. However, it's enough for me to adapt to my current strength. Before that, I can transfer everyone in the cauldron ring to the profound Yin world. Ning Fan's figure flashed and appeared in the profound Yin world. He took off the cauldron ring on his left wrist and muttered to himself with a hint of reluctance. From today onwards, I don't need this cauldron ring anymore. Teleportation. Ning Fan stood on a piece of green land in the eastern region of the profound Yin world. His eyes suddenly turned sharp. Holding the cauldron ring in his hand, he circulated his essence chi and magic power to the maximum. At the next moment, the entire small kiliacosm of the cauldron ring was teleported out by Ning Fan and placed on the land of the eastern region. The western region stored many of his supreme treasures, such as the Eastern Ocean Bell and the purple gourd that could not be moved. The eastern region would be the place where the human cauldrons lived in the future. Compared to the cauldron world of the small kiliacosm, it was naturally much safer. The spiritual chi there was also much better. Countless human cauldrons who were cultivating suddenly realized that the entire world had been moved into the profound Yin world. All of them were so shocked that their faces turned pale. However, when these human cauldrons saw Ning Fan, the shock in their eyes disappeared. As soon as the two sisters, Bing Ling and Yu Ling, saw Ning Fan, they immediately brought a group of female cultivators to greet Ning Fan and asked him what exactly happened. After briefly telling them about the matter of the cauldron world being moved, Ning Fan returned to the eastern region with them and stayed there for a few days. Some female cultivators who had encountered bottlenecks in their cultivation base naturally needed his guidance. To be honest, these human cauldrons were already of little use to him today. However, Ning Fan did not have the intention to abandon them. These human cauldrons were the proof that he had stepped into the Devil Dao. He would never abandon them for the rest of his life. After leaving behind many Dao crystal magic treasures that he did not need, and handing them over to the human cauldrons, Ning Fan went to the place where Mu Weiliang and Zili went for their seclusion. The two of them had formed demon cocoons for their cultivation. Until now, there were no signs of them breaking out of the cocoons. After all, every time they advanced to the second step, they would need to spend a large amount of time in seclusion. It would probably take a long time for them to break out of the cocoons. After refining all the blood and flesh essences that he had collected into crystals, he left them in the two women's residences. With a thought, he prepared to leave. All of a sudden, a ray of purple light shot up into the sky from the direction of one of the female cauldron's residences. As soon as the purple light shot up into the sky, it immediately transformed into the shadow of a gigantic winged demon. It was a purple cuckoo. As soon as this strange phenomenon appeared, it immediately attracted the attention of countless female cultivators. Without saying a word, he sent a telepathic message to all the female cultivators in the area, telling them not to step into their respective residences. Then, with a flash of his body, he directly appeared at the place where the strange phenomenon appeared. The thing that triggered this purple cuckoo phenomenon was a blind lady in purple robes. At this moment, she was lying in the house with a face full of pain. Her beautiful face was as pale as a piece of paper, and there were traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. She was on the verge of death. This lady was none other than the human cauldron that Ning Fan had abducted in the name of Liu Bei, Nailan. At this moment, Nailan's face was not only pale but also filled with uneasiness and fear. She had never thought that she would vaguely cultivate the most forbidden innate ability of the Purple Cuckoo clan when she had lost her sight. It was a kind of ability that allowed her to peer into the heaven's secrets. In the history of the Purple Cuckoo clan, only a few people could successfully cultivate it. However, she managed to do so when she was at her lowest point. Previously, she had accidentally executed this divine ability and accidentally triggered a phenomenon. Through this ability, she saw a trace of a future that broke her heart. Her blind eyes gradually shed tears of blood, and her expression was sad and sorrowful. At this moment, Ning Fan took a step into her boudoir and carried her up from the ground. As if she had seen the last glimmer of hope in the midst of despair, Nailanzi ignored everything else and held Ning Fan's hand tightly while sobbing unclearly. I saw the future, the terrifying future. The four heavens will be isolated. There will be a great war in the northern heaven. After that, the Spirit King will die. He will die in the hands of the Western demonic ancestor. Ling Er, who was eaten by the Spirit King, will also die. Save Ling, or she's my little sister. She could not die. She's waiting for me to save her. Ning Fan's expression suddenly became extremely solemn. This Nailanzi had actually triggered the Purple Cuckoo anomaly and claimed to have seen the future. Could it be that she actually cultivated the legendary forbidden divination technique of the Purple Cuckoo clan? The Three Fate Technique. The person who comprehended the Three Fate art had 3 chances to divine all the secrets of heaven and earth. Every time he divined, he would suffer a huge backlash. After the 3rd divination, his soul would be scattered and he would definitely die. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.